Happy Friday. Congratulations to all. The sun is out. It's not quite warm outside, but it's a beautiful day in Middle Tennessee. Happy to have you. We will get to the Titans on the road at Houston here in just a little bit. But before we do that, Coach Mack at 11:20, by the way, as is the custom on a Friday. Lucas Jackson and me until 1 o'clock. We have to talk about this game last night, the first snow game of the year, boys.
Electric.
Does it matter the quality of the football if there is snow?
No. The snow
for
makes
the enjoyment factor.
No, the snow makes the quality of the football. Because if that game in the exact way it took place happened with no snow and just kind of what it was in the first quarter, maybe some flurries, but overall looking windy and cold and miserable, then it would have been a terrible football game. But watching Jamus Winston scramble around and just trying to squint through the snow over the line of scrimmage and throw some dimes and some terrible balls was electric.
If you tell me Jamus Winston in the snow, you have me every time.
Oh, yeah.
That's all that need be said. 24-19. The Browns get their third win of the season. The Steelers, the division leaders there, still holding on, but it does make things a hell of a lot more interesting in the AFC North with the Ravens after they just lost the head-to-head to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the Browns get it done in not aesthetically pleasing fashion, but any kind of snow game is aesthetically pleasing when it comes to AFC North football. It just feels like AFC North football must be played in snow like 4 or 5 times a year, and we're just starting to get into that part of November.
As you say that, Ari Myrov just tweeted seconds ago that for the first time in NFL history, the league is flexing a Thursday night football game, replacing an AFC North game in Week 16, Browns-Bengals with Broncos-Chargers.
Well, that's a tip of the cap to the Broncos.
Yeah.
And the Chargers, frankly. Good for them. Browns-Bengals would be a fun game, but I'd be more interested in that divisional matchup, I think, at the top or near the top of the AFC West, given that the Chiefs still rule the roost there. I like that flex. I'm good with that.
Mike Tomlin, the Steelers still 0 for all-time in road divisional games on a Thursday night.
Bert told me that stat.
It's absurd.
And, but those things, don't they kind of exist everywhere in football? You just don't realize them. Like Mike Tomlin's record in primetime is terrible to begin with on Thursday Night Football specifically.
2-9 on the road in Thursday Night Football across the board. And he's 0-8 now on the road Thursday Night Football in the division.
It's crazy because I would have bet the Steelers every time, straight up. I would have bet the Steelers every time straight up against this Browns team. If you told me Jamus Winston in the snow, I'm thinking, oh, how delightful. But, oh, what terrible football. This man is going to be throwing interceptions all over the place. And there were turnovers. There were picks. There were fumbles. Certainly it wasn't a seamless thing. It's not like Jamus went out there and diced him up. But that's exactly what this team is being asked to do. Now, maybe not exactly, because the Browns were at home yesterday, and the Titans will go on the road to face the Houston Texans. The elements will not be a factor, as far as I know. Did they have a retractable roof? They almost never open that damn roof.
Yeah, if it
is retractable,
yeah.
I feel like it's almost never open. I want to say they do. Anyway, elements not a factor. Titans, though, 2-8. Texans looking more vulnerable than a team like the Steelers. Wouldn't you agree? Based off that Monday night game against the Cowboys, think about it. Mixon had a big night, but that was basically a one-score game until the fourth quarter.
I think the Texans might be rounding into some really good form.
Based on what?
Getting
because
Nico
CJ
Collins
Stroud
back.
was not, and I don't think he's healthy, by the way. He's back, but I don't think he's healthy.
You talking about Collins?
I'm talking about
Collins.
Collins.
But you saw the Texans get into that slump. They were without Nico Collins and obviously without Stephon Diggs, who's out for the year. As you said, Joe Mixon having a career year, but getting Nico Collins back and the defense playing at an extraordinarily high level. And I don't know if they're going to get Will Anderson back this weekend, but that stable of pass rushers is deep and playing really, really well. So I disagree. I think you might be getting the Texans on the upswing. I think the opportunity to get the Texans on the little mini slump would have been a couple of weeks ago when they were losing to the Jets in prime time and losing to the Lions despite Jared Goff throwing 5 picks.
No, but it's not about the slump. Yeah, they can look suspect and you can try and correlate the slump as being something that was a consistent problem for them, but they've had to figure out a couple of different things because, again, that offensive line, they're not pass protecting well. And again, this is a Titans team without any kind of pass rush of consequence, though you did see Jeff and Tavondre Sweat making life a hell of a lot more uncomfortable on Sam Darnold. And I do like their matchup specifically this weekend against the interior of the Texans offensive line because that's where they're most suspect at this point. But and maybe it's just, maybe I'm reading too much into that Monday night game.
It wasn't I know it kind of became, when Texans jumped out to a 14-0 lead. Like they felt in control for pretty much that entire game.
And it's a credit to them that they can be flawed and still win a game that way, to your point. But I'm looking at C.J. Stroud and saying that player was not comfortable. Like, he's not comfortable with what's going on there. I don't think that he was necessarily, I didn't think he was overwhelmingly accurate based on what we think C.J. Stroud to be. Like, I think there's something there that can be exploited. Now, they're at home. It's an opponent like the Titans. The Titans have to be able to give them a game, but based on what I'm seeing from the Titans and what I most recently saw from the Texans, I'm saying that is probably closer than we're giving it credit for than, just like the Browns, a 2-8 team facing the divisional leader.
We're talking about the Titans, who we're saying Will Levis had probably the best performance of the season, yet they still put up 13 points, and the Texans coming off a 24-point Monday night win on the road in Dallas.
Okay. I'm just saying you can blow that up as much as you want to, and there has been a lot of blowouts in the NFL this year, but I just don't think it's going to be as lopsided as maybe people expect. I think they have a chance. They always have a chance because they're physically in the game, right? Somebody has to win. Somebody has to lose. And there's all manner of things that we can't account for, that we haven't talked about, that we haven't even thought about that could take place, that could shift things one way or the other. I mean, this could be the game that the Titans special teams disasters rears its ugly head again. Anything can happen to make it a lopsided game, is my point. But I'm looking at C.J. Stroud, and I'm looking at him all season. And whatever, if you want to generalize it and say sophomore slump or identify the reasons that he's actually struggling and why Texans fans aren't happy with their offense and why that game was close until basically the fourth quarter, I think it's worth talking about. They're not dead yet. Look at you, a doubter and a hater.
Not saying they can't win.
You literally just made the argument for 10 minutes that they can't. What are you watching?
No, but I just think it's wild to look at what the Texans did last week and say, hey, you're catching them at a pretty vulnerable time.
I'm just saying they look more vulnerable than I'm accustomed to seeing them. I'm not saying that this specific time is a vulnerable time. That Monday night game, he looked vulnerable. They as a team overcame it because they're a good football team.
Right.
There are things there that can be exploited.
Oh, for sure. No, this is not the C.J. Stroud of his rookie year, and there are a few reasons for that.
615-737-1045 is the number. If you want to jump in, you can do so. You also have the F&M Bank chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. If you want to get involved there, we've got NFL headlines later on. Jackson, do I have anything to give away for Friday Fire at 11:45 today?
2 tickets to see Jelly Roll next Tuesday at Bridgestone Arena.
How about that? At 11:45 today, we'll give you the opportunity to win those Jelly Roll tickets. All you have to be thinking about is your moment of positivity from the week. You submit that. It'll enter you for the chance to win those Jelly Roll tickets. Obviously,
Not yet.
We'll decide. Not yet. You have headlines?
I do.
They're next.
It's time for headlines with Lucas Panzica.
This one kind of snuck under the radar before Thursday Night Football with the Browns beating the Steelers 24-19. Ian Rappaport on The Insiders on NFL Network reported that Kevin Stefanski is expected to remain the Browns head coach. We played this game earlier this week where we ranked hot seats in the NFL based on Hattie B's heat levels, and both of us thought Kevin Stefanski was on the damn hot level, which is the second hottest before Shut the Clock Up. Rap Sheet says, nope, Stefanski is sticking around. Meanwhile, there's been some noise bubbling under the surface about Mike Vrabel. They talked about him a little bit on the broadcast last night with Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit. Diana Rossini reported on The Athletic that Mike Vrabel is the former player turned coach getting the hype for this upcoming coaching cycle, not Deion Sanders. She says Vrabel will have his pick in the upcoming cycle, but Rap Sheet is saying it ain't going to be at the place that Vrabel currently is, which is Cleveland.
All right. How do you want to do this? You want to do Vrabel first? You want to do Stefanski? Because I think that's interesting because that was before the win against the Steelers.
It was. And then they went and won a big divisional game to get to 3-8? No.
3-8.
Yeah, 3-8.
Or 3-8. So I like that. We put him in the damn hot category because neither of us trust Jimmy Haslam, right? Like that's the primary reason that we put him at a higher heat level than maybe just, generally hot, because any coach who's 2-8 should be considered in reasonable danger, including this coaching staff at 2-8. Stefanski has done he has been, honestly, if for no other reason, for taking the body blows that Jimmy Haslam should be taking, right? Getting up at the press conference every week that Deshaun Watson doesn't perform well and saying, no, that's our guy, because that's the company line, right? No, we're going to ride this thing out with Deshaun Watson, and he's been a good soldier about it all, and he's tried to put together a winning football product with Deshaun Watson, even though he knows damn well he can't win football games with Deshaun Watson. That's the job, and he's taking it, I think, well. And he's a good coach. I think Kevin Stefanski, there is probably a pretty big gap between the coaches that we consider to be the best in the league and then this kind of middle class of good to above average, depending on the season guys. I think Kevin Stefanski has largely been above average, and not just because the two-time Coach of the Year thing. I think he's done good things for a franchise that now has expectations, which in my lifetime, the Cleveland Browns have never had reasonable, any purpose to have expectation or any cause to have expectation there. Kevin Stefanski has raised the bar in Cleveland. I think he deserves another shot with a different quarterback, God help him.
Who could that quarterback be?
Yeah,
that'll be the discussion all offseason in Cleveland.
So then to the Vrabel part of things. Now, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? Mike Vrabel's going to have his pick of any job?
Yep, that's what we were saying.
And that's what a lot of people were saying. And then all of a sudden, Mike Vrabel didn't get his pick of every job. And I think he interviewed for the Falcons and the Chargers. He was considered a finalist for the Falcons and the Chargers. We felt like we always knew the Chargers job was going to Jim Harbaugh once he was officially in the mix for that gig. And then the Falcons ended up going with Raheem Morris. How close they were to Bill Belichick. There's some discussion there about whether Robert Kraft nuked Bill Belichick's chances to become the Falcons coach. So how much Vrabel was actually in that one when they ended up going with Raheem Morris, we don't know. I do think that how badly the Titans suck now is playing to his favor, at least optically. Now, whether or not he does a good job in wherever he lands, like if he takes the Jets job, that's going to be terrible. He's just going to be another version of Robert Saleh.
Yeah.
And he has to know that going in.
Robert Saleh, good coach. We believe him to be a good coach.
I mean, he's at least a good defensive play caller because their defense is a mess without him at this point.
They were better last season with Zach Wilson playing quarterback than they are this season with a healthy Aaron Rodgers.
And I'm assuming it's up to him whether he gets to come back or not, right? The way that they redid his deal. So, yeah, okay, maybe you have your pick of jobs that are out there among jobs that may be available to you. But if your pick is the Jets job, are you in a position where you've made decent money as an NFL coach and probably, despite being on a 3-8 football team, Like, it's not on you. The heat's not on you. You're the guy that's being talked about on local sports talk radios being the guy to replace the guy. I don't know. I would be fascinated to see if he gets one, where he lands. I do think it's more likely than not that he's a head coach again, but we'll see. I thought
agree.
that last year too.
I agree. Just based on how we sort of stacked up hot seats in the NFL, and again, we put damn hot on Kevin Stefanski, and Ian Rappaport says he ain't going anywhere. Ian Rappaport also said that about Mike Mularkey, which we talked about the other day. But anyway.
Well, no,
different situation.
He did report that he was going somewhere 3 different times and then got told by Mike Mularkey, no, I'm not going anywhere. And then
Mularkey was just messing with him. Yeah. No, but that's obviously a unique situation. So
I'm glad that we got that, by the way, at the end of the show, that Mularkey thing, because I didn't want to spend a ton of time on that today, but it's just damn funny. It's so funny.
We put it to a poll, how many head coaching openings will there be in the NFL in the upcoming offseason? The over-under at 5.5. Because we looked at about 5 coaches as being firmly on the hot seat the other day, and Stefanski was one of them. Seems like he's not, but there's going to be one you don't expect, right? There could be a team that craters over the course of the next month. There could be a coach that seems like he's in good standing right now. What if the Bucks lose their next 5 or 6 games, right?
Or Zach Taylor, right? Like
sure.
that seems like a similar parallel there.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe not as many as last season where there were, 7 openings across the NFL? But I think I agree that Mike Vrabel, more likely than not, will be a head coach in the upcoming cycle. Oh, we said that last year.
Jackson just sent something to the Twitter.
Yeah, I was about to bring this up.
Adam Schefter.
No.
Breaking sports news on 104.5.
Don't do that to people.
Fade it down. Get rid of the laser light show. I'm not reading the tweet until it's gone. Mike Vrabel, according to Adam Schefter, will be a guest on the Manning Cast on Monday night for the Ravens-Chargers. Vrabel, the former Titans head coach, has been working for the Browns this season as a coaching and personnel consultant. He'll join Bill Belichick as a guest on the show. Both will be 2 of the top coaching targets this offseason. So do Peyton and Eli ask the 2 of them about their coaching prospects in 2024, or 2025, rather.
That will be interesting.
It feels like you kind of have to ask the question, but I don't know if they do have to ask the question. They're not beholden to any, journalism standard. They're just there to have a good time with their friends and watch football. So I don't know if that comes up in that conversation. It would be, I feel, a big missed opportunity, but I think Mike and Bill would both be like, we'll see what happens.
I feel like they should have waited for a worse Monday Night Football game to do this.
With those 2?
Yeah.
No, I think
Ravens-Chargers is an electric matchup.
I think they're trying to compete with Buck and Aikman because most people are going to be watching the game instead of the Manning Cast. So they're trying to put, he'll be good. And I think that Belichick and him are going to be really interesting because they're definitely not, I don't know, they're just going to have to, it's like Marshawn Lynch. You're going to have to keep him from cussing. I think Mike's, savvy enough at this point, but there's the occasional F-bomb that'll make an appearance in front of a microphone, so we'll see.
Speaking of Belichick and Vrabel, the owner of the franchise where they really made their names, Robert Kraft, has been denied a Hall of Fame bid again. He was thought to be a favorite for the 2025 class of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He has been passed over by the Hall's contributor committee, according to ESPN. And we talk a lot about Bud Adams here and why he should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, that the NFL does not exist as is without Bud Adams. Can you say the same, not, in terms of the creation of the league and what it is today, but can we sit here and say absolutely the owner of the most successful dynasty in the history of the NFL should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame? Because he gets snubbed time and time again.
Do you know why?
No.
Because he chirps Jerry Jones about being in and having won nothing in the last, 30 years. And Jerry Jones is one of the most powerful people in football. Now, I don't know that Jerry's, necessarily holding a knife in the back of the committee as they're deciding these things. I'm sure there are reasonable arguments to be made, but there is no question that you cannot tell the story of the last 2 decades of the NFL and honestly still ongoing. He's still influential enough to keep the best coach in the history of the NFL from getting a job with the Falcons this offseason. Like, he's clearly still got some pull there. He's clearly still relevant despite his team, having, this is what now? Are we 5 years removed from Tom Brady going to the Bucs? and the Patriots.
Yeah, the Super Bowl year was 2020.
Hitting the decline. So yeah, it's been quite some time. 6-time Super Bowl winning New England Patriots owner should be in the Hall of Fame. That's stupid.
And just to add insult to injury, instead of putting forth Robert Kraft, the 9-member committee, which each year advances one name for consideration by all 50 Hall voters, chose Ralph Hay, a co-founder of the National Football League, the owner of the Canton Bulldogs from 1918 to 1922, according to ESPN. Ralph Hay, who passed away in 1944, is put forth for consideration. Not to say Ralph Hay was not instrumental in the creation of the National Football League, but I love this quote from one source who, according to ESPN, insisted on anonymity. That says, "It's a huge surprise, and it's very disappointing. Unless you are an NFL historian, you don't know who Ralph Hay is."
Do you know who Ralph Hay is?
No, I don't. Clearly, he was very important to the creation of the National Football League. But he died at the age of 53 in 1944. So there is a little bit of insult to injury there for Robert Kraft.
That is literally a double middle finger to Robert Kraft.
Who passed away in World War II.
How many times? World War II. How many, like fighting? Was he in combat in World War II?
Oh, I don't think. I mean, he was in his 50s, so I doubt it. I don't know how. I don't know what the cause of death was for Ralph Hay, who was born and passed away in Canton, Ohio.
I shouldn't laugh because that's terrible. I mean, that's genuinely rotten, isn't it? I don't know. I don't know how these things are decided. I can't claim to have ever been on the inside of a Hall of Fame induction meeting that way, but 13 chances for Bob Kraft to get into the Hall of Fame, and you're passing him over for dudes who passed away in the 40s feels like a pretty big bleep you. Now, here's the other part of this, okay? Because you can look at it as just Jerry Jones and him having a bad relationship, and that does factor in, right? It kept T.O. out of the Hall of Fame. His relationship with the media forever, petty stuff like that does have an impact. How much, though, do you think it's got to do with the Patriots' cheating scandals? Because there were several while he was the owner, and there's a lot of people who still look at the Patriots and think, well, no, they're tainted to some extent. Tom Brady has come out pretty clean on that, right? Tom Brady, the Bucs, the way that he went and won the Super Bowl without Belichick. Doesn't he feel like he's gone through kind of the LeBron James cycle where it's, well, he's a good story, then we hate him because all he does is win everything. Then he goes to Tampa Bay and he's, drinking avocado tequila and he's a likable guy now when Tom Brady has never been either relatable or likable his entire career. Bob Kraft didn't necessarily get that kind of PR wash the way that Brady did.
Yeah, but I don't care about any of that. He's the owner of the most
but I'm saying
successful dynasty in league history.
I understand. I'm with you. The people in the room, I 100% think there is some level of opinion in there that Bob Kraft is a cheater, and people are holding that against him. What other explanation could you possibly provide?
I don't know. Congratulations to the descendants of Ralph Hay. A founding father of the National Football League.
You mean his great grandkids? Do they even know him?
Bud Adams should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. All right, to actual football stuff that will happen this weekend. Brock Purdy has been limited this week with a shoulder injury as the Niners get ready to take on the Packers this weekend. San Francisco 5-5. And there is significant doubt about whether or not Purdy is going to play. And the feeling is that if he doesn't play, Brandon Allen would get the start. Remember, Joshua Dobbs, Titans legend, is in that quarterback room in San Francisco.
Who would they go to, I wonder?
Most of the reporting is insinuating that they would go to Allen, but there's not any, I don't know. I don't know who's been active on game days behind Purdy in San Francisco. I'd be lying if I said I knew that, but I've seen plenty of discourse from San Francisco fans that are saying, I swear if Kyle puts Brandon Allen in over Joshua Dobbs.
The legend continues. Well, here's the thing. He left practice early, Brock Purdy did, which is red flag number one. The other red flags around this, if you're San Francisco, because they just got to 500 and their division is obviously, it's not great this year, but it's still very competitive. With the Seahawks also at 5-5, you've got the Cardinals, the division leaders, their record 6-4, if I'm not mistaken. Trent Williams' ankle also in question right now. Nick Bosa is missing time.
This actually is breaking news, and this was going to be the next headline because he's been putting out statements and he's been the scout team safety in New York since being benched as the quarterback of the Giants. Multiple reports the Giants are releasing quarterback Daniel Jones, who was benched, went down to QB3, met with the media yesterday. He requested his release. The team is expected to grant it, according to Ian Rappaport. So Jones will go through waivers, which he's likely to clear because of his contract, according to Rap Sheet, and at that point, he will be a free agent.
On the scale of things that are laser light show worthy, I feel like the quarterback who was already benched and relegated to fourth string asking for his releases is not that big of a surprise. No? I mean, I understand it is literally breaking news, and that is the purpose of that sound.
That's true. But no, it's not a crazy shock, but man, that happened quickly. I mean, in the span of the last 3-4 days, it went from Daniel Jones benched, QB3.
How long until we got a call about Daniel Jones and the Titans?
Oh, no.
Because I saw some idiot on Twitter yesterday talking about Aaron Rodgers and the Titans, and it made me want to scream.
Not long.
Well, they've released him, according to Diana. So officially released as the request for the release.
They just put out a statement.
Team expected to grant it. So all these things moving very quickly. At this point, Daniel Jones is a free agent. Now, that does matter because a team could look at him and say, okay, playoff push. We would like to fortify our quarterback room. San Francisco, what about that? If Brock Purdy can't play this week? I wonder, I don't know who his agent is off the top of my head, but I wonder if there hasn't been some back channeling between teams whose quarterback situation is suspect right now that are on the verge or trying to stay in contention. And again, Daniel Jones has not acquitted himself as a quality starting quarterback in the NFL. But, for example, Shanahan, that's a pretty interesting hypothetical. That is a quarterback who I think may make some degree of sense, at least over their backup options. Now, onboarding him, I'm not saying he's going to play this weekend. Who's the Niners opponent, you said?
Niners play the Packers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that they would get him in the building, get him up to speed, and get him out there in time to start for the Packers game or anything like that, obviously, but worth paying attention to.
The statement from Giants president John Mara that the Giants put out just a couple minutes ago said, Daniel came to see me this morning and asked if we would release him. We mutually agreed that would be best for him and for the team. Daniel has been a great representative of our organization, first class in every way. His handling of this situation yesterday exemplifies just that. We are all disappointed in how things have worked out, and they wish him nothing but the best in the future. So,
what if he comes here as a backup next year?
You could do worse.
Yeah,
as your backup quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that Mason hasn't earned at least another look, but I do think that's intriguing.
Daniel Jones is going to get another shot somewhere, like as
a starter,
some point along the way. Whether he's a backup that's thrust into a game, or it's a Sam Darnold situation where there's a rookie, a young quarterback that they want to sit, and they want a guy who's played in the league. Daniel Jones is going to get another opportunity at some point.
But as a starter, or is he going to go in as a backup and then relieve somebody and that become the opportunity? Because that I would acknowledge.
I don't know the context. I don't know I just know as a starter,
sure.
yes.
Oh, sure.
As a starter,
he will get another opportunity.
I just don't know the context of how the path getting there.
Because, there's reason to believe. Now, he's an interesting case study, though, and then because it felt like people were down on him from the jump as a first-round draft pick. And
it felt like he was overdrafted at 6 overall.
Yeah, but... I almost, again, I don't know why there's been a lot of Dave football, get him and love on this radio show here in the last week or so. But, I kind of was okay with the Giants, who desperately needed a quarterback, taking Daniel Jones and then taking Dexter Lawrence later, even if it was with the 6th overall pick in a draft that was really good, right? The 2019 draft had a lot of guys that you could have gone with theoretically over Daniel Jones, but the Giants needed a quarterback. They needed some kind of post-Eli Manning solution there. So it's not quite to me the same as like Wentz or Goff, where Goff was a trade. You understood the Lions were going to be going through it. They were going to start him no matter what. They really did right by sticking with him through the down times that the Lions experienced en route to him, being in the conversation for MVP this year. Wentz got opportunities to start as well out the gate, even though there was some suspect stuff around both his personality and his level of play on the field. So we'll see what happens with Daniel Jones.
It's not like Wentz or Goff. It's closer to be to Darnold. Now, Jones, not the prospect Darnold was coming out.
Yeah. See, it's different to me than even that.
Not the
Closer
prospect,
for sure.
but closer because the traits are there. The thought was you took him at 6 in that 2019 draft in Nashville. I have a video. I was in the crowd that night, and I was videoing that pick because I have a buddy that was a Giants fan. And when they said Daniel Jones' name, I panned to my buddy Jay, who you know, and the look of humor, just the laugh, just dying laughing in that moment.
The tortured Saints fan mocking the Giants fan.
Yeah. So, but guy that is drafted very highly, top 10 pick with traits, going into the New York market, put into a horrible situation, especially last season and this season, in terms of the offensive line and the support around him and all those things. A modicum of success. He had more success than Darnold did at any point with the Jets in that single season where Brian Dable won Coach of the Year.
And then he got hurt.
2022.
And his offensive line's always been bad.
Yeah.
And there's some school of thought to, like, once you break a quarterback, it's tough to kind of unwind all the different problems that a situation like New York could cause a player.
They thought Darnold
like
was broken.
Jones. Sure.
So that's what I'm saying is that's enough for somebody to say, no, let's see what happens here. Put him in a better situation.
Who I thought was overdrafted recently to compare, maybe not recently, but either way.
Yeah, he's gonna get a shot somewhere. So that will be interesting. His contract situation. He is under contract this year, according to Spot Track. I'm trying to see how long is left in that deal.
Well, they don't pick up the deal if they're outright releasing him, right? They're just doing it to avoid the injury guarantee.
Right, that's right. They're trying to avoid the injury guarantee.
And he's subject to waivers. Okay, he's subject to waivers, so the contract is a part of the deal.
But nobody expects, he's expected to clear waivers because they'd have to take that on. Okay.
Do you have another one, or should I go to the phones?
Just quickly, there are 0 games between teams with winning records on Sunday. So we are all...
Oh, on Sunday.
On
There's a Monday
Sunday.
night.
We're all waiting for Monday night. Ravens, Chargers, Jim and John Harbaugh for the first time since that Super Bowl with the Niners and Ravens. But there's a couple with 500 teams playing teams with winning records, but not a single game between 2 teams with winning records.
I would honestly think the most interesting would be Cardinals, Seahawks, followed by Lions, Colts, sneaky fun.
Sneaky fun, and then Niners, Packers would be more so if Brock Purdy was playing.
There's some good. So I don't think that does it because there's a bunch of 500 teams that are playing. Like 5-5 Niners and Packers and 7-3 Packers are a good game.
Yeah, and any NFC. I mean, I think Cardinals play the Seahawks. That's a pivotal game in the NFC West.
All the AFC games are cheeks, but the NFC games are pretty good on Sunday at least. The Monday night game.
Yeah, Monday night might be
Ravens,
awesome.
Chargers, Harbaugh Bowl. 615-737-1045. The number before we get to the SEC stat of the day. Is it Jackson Elon? How about that? Elon's up next. Elon, okay.
Hey, guys, I want to go back to the Robert Kraft and the Hall discussion. Do you think in today's social climate there's a chance that him going full Deshaun Watson and a massage parlor has maybe a little bit to do with them blackballing him?
Oh, sure. I bet there's a great many reasons. I mean, if you don't like somebody personally and they have some stuff that you can pick at, yeah, you'll use whatever reason you want to keep them from accomplishing what you want. And the NFL or what they want, and the NFL is an incredibly petty business that way. Stat of the day?
SEC stat of the day next.
The Tennessee men's. All right. Tennessee Men's Clinic is here to help you if you are in need of treatment for erectile dysfunction. If you feel like the pills have stopped working and you've given up hope, they are in the position to help you succeed with all manner of different treatment paths that just going to a conventional doctor may not offer. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is here to help those guys who feel like they have given up hope and are thinking about things like irreversible surgery. Please do not seek treatment that involves irreversible surgery for ED before you talk to the experts at the Tennessee Men's Clinic, because it's all they do. So visit them online today at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com to book an appointment. They offer you all manner of different options. It's not just ED treatments. It's also low T treatments that help with size, stamina, and everything else in between. The TennesseeMen'sClinic.com for more information.
I wondered how long it would take before Greg Sankey put on his campaign manager hat for the Southeastern Conference. He's been relatively quiet over the course of the last few weeks as we argue with one another about strength of schedule and should the SEC get 4 teams in, 5 teams in? What if Texas is a 2-loss team? What if, you know what I'm saying? He takes to Twitter yesterday, and Greg Sankey tweets the SEC stat of the day for me. So thank you, Commish. Interesting to read, he tweets, analysis from others as they examine strength of schedule in college football. It does seem there is a trend to be identified. And he posts this graphic that lists the top 15 teams in the college football playoff ranking, but ranked by strength of schedule. Georgia is number 1 by basically every metric that exists. Alabama is number 2. According to ESPN, they have the number 16 strength of schedule. According to Massey, Sagarin, I don't know what any of these metrics are. They have the 5 and 9 strength of schedule, respectively. So there's 3 ways to rank strength of schedule that get averaged up. So Georgia has overall the number 1. Alabama has the number 10 strength of schedule. Tennessee has the number 21.7 strength of schedule. Texas A&M has the 27th ranked strength of schedule. Ole Miss at 29.7, averaging the 3 rankings. Texas at 33.3, and then everybody else.
Well, everybody else includes Indiana at 83.
83 is the average
strength of schedule.
Yes.
Which feels like a personal shot, and now I'm out on Greg Sankey.
ESPN ranks Indiana's strength of schedule at 106.
Yeah.
Massey ranks it at 66. A lot of variance there. I mean, that's a good 40 spots. But
yeah, I wonder if there's any team that's got that much of a separation. There can't be.
No, 40 spots is a lot from one metric to another. And then the Sagarin, I don't even know if I'm saying that right.
I think you are.
Ranks Indiana at 77.
Although I thought we were right on daylight savings time yesterday, too.
So
daylight saving time.
The top 6 teams by strength of schedule that are currently in the CFP top 15 are all SEC teams. And then it's everybody else. So we're seeing the beginnings of Greg Sankey, doing his job and campaigning for his conference for this to weigh heavily in the eyes of the committee when it comes decision day. And SEC teams with 2 losses going up against the likes of maybe an 11-1 Indiana if they do indeed fall to Ohio State, or an 11-1 Penn State, or whatever it might be. We're seeing the beginnings of Greg Sankey doing what we expected Greg Sankey to do.
I love the context or the phrasing of the tweet from Greg Sankey. Interesting to read analysis from others. He notes, not like he's not doing his own research. Interesting to, Greg Sankey, he's sitting in his sunroom. He's cracking open the newspaper. He's found this. He's just happened to stumble into this strength of schedule analysis that cites the top outlets analyzing the strength of schedule. And, in the meantime, takes a subtle shot at the committee. It does seem there is a trend to be identified there.
I love how cheeky.
You might as well be shouting it into a microphone.
Very cheeky.
Hey, guys, there's a trend. Pay attention.
Yeah, it's funny. So, Josh Pate, says this all the time on his show when he's in here with us. The "you are what your record says you are" is not a thing in college football. It is a fallacy in college football. Because if Indiana does lose to Ohio State and is 11-1, they're 11-1. So clearly they should get over a 10-2 ex-SEC team.
I just remember it's not so long ago that everybody was thoroughly enjoying the story of Indiana football, and now everybody in the SEC just wants to drag them.
They're like, it was fun until it affected me.
No, they're dangerous. Get them out of here, quick.
So where will strength of schedule weigh in come decision day, and who will have to pay for strength of schedule is going to be my biggest question.
That is a good question.
Like, will Indiana, if they lose to Ohio State, and
they should have to. It is a completely fair. Like, I'm making jokes about this because obviously I'm biased and I want to see Indiana do well, but it is completely fair to point out that across the board, Georgia has the number 1 strength of schedule and got dropped 8 spots after the Ole Miss loss?
9 spots.
And then
after
rose
the Ole Miss loss. 2 after beating Tennessee. So Georgia's number 10.
That I think is what Greg Sankey is doing his job. It is a part of his job to actively cape up. He is one of the people on the forefront of this thing. He is one of the primary reasons that this thing will be expanded in the not too distant future. I'm certain, depending on how all this plays out and how many of his not so subtle messages to the committee get through or don't get through, because it's worth paying attention on Tuesday night to see if the committee's listening. Because they may, Ward Manuel may, and again, I don't know Ward Manuel. I don't know that he would say this, but he may just say, bleep you, Greg Sankey, we're going to do what we want here. And the committee will do what it wants and puts together a television show, and it'll be compelling, and we'll all be pissed and yelling at each other about it. And my point with this is factual arguments are made. Logical arguments are made all the time when it comes to this stuff, and none of it seems to matter by the time we get to Tuesday night, and we're all just pissed again on Wednesday morning.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, and I know Tennessee fans are...
But by the way, I don't want to discourage you, because I appreciate that you are putting in the legwork to try and suss through this and present some of these reasonable and logical arguments. But I just feel like I can just come in here and sit across from you and say, yeah, but what?
I totally understand. And Tennessee fans, we had a couple call in when I was with Blaine from 1 to 3 yesterday talking about, I don't understand how a 2-loss Tennessee with a head-to-head win over Alabama and a similar caliber second loss, Tennessee's to Arkansas, Bama's to Vanderbilt, can be ranked 4 spots behind Alabama. And my response to that is, Tennessee was 7 last week. Bama was behind Tennessee. Were the Vols supposed to just stay put after losing to Georgia by 14? Like, the recent results matter. I know they weigh the entire body of work, but the recent results, of course they have to matter. And Alabama has been on a tear. Tennessee has not. They're coming off a loss. So, yes, the Vols were always going to drop, and Alabama was always going to rise. Not because they beat Mercer, but because they're on a win streak, and they recently blew out LSU on the road, and their overall resume is slightly better than Tennessee's, even though the Vols have the head-to-head. I would also say don't fret. You don't need to hit the panic button. Tennessee is the first team out. There are so many games left. It would be such a shock if everything just held serve, right? Like this crazy season we've been in, and then suddenly the last 2 weeks of the year, it's all chalk, and all the favorites beat all the underdogs, and the picture as we see it now is the picture as we see it at the end of the season, and Tennessee's the first team out now, and they'll be the first team out at the end of the year. That would be pretty surprising to me. There's a reason why odds makers, why Vegas believes Tennessee will be in the playoff. Like, if you bet on Tennessee to make the playoff, you're not going to make that much money because Vegas is yeah, that's probably going to happen.
And all these teams that we're talking about would be favored in their first round matchups. Like, we understand what this looks like. We're just leaving it up to the most subjective force humanly possible.
Yeah. So I would preach patience, and there are a lot of games that need to happen. And the good news for Tennessee is they only need one thing to break. Right? They don't need, okay, we need these 4 games to go our way this week. No, you only need one of them this weekend and next weekend. So there's nuance to all of this, and I don't think anybody needs to be hitting the panic button just yet.
Oh, but people will. I mean, that's just the nature of these things. It doesn't matter how many times you tell people not to hit the panic button. They're going to, Jackson's going to mishear the committee and say that the reason why Alabama's ranked where they are is because they beat Mercer. And that will start outrage on social media because social media is a dumb place. It's not your fault, buddy. It's okay.
It's time to panic.
615-737-1045. How you jump in. Let's go to Joe up next.
Hey, guys. We can also look at what happened on the field. Alabama went into Wisconsin and won by 32. Oregon struggled to get out of Madison with a win. Texas went in, beat Michigan by 19 at Michigan. Indiana beat Michigan by 5 in a pretty competitive game. So you can look and see what happens on the field, comparative scores if you want to, rather than just a pure strength of schedule. So I think maybe Sankey need to do another Twitter today to check that out. So anyway, thanks. Enjoy the program.
Thank you so much, Joe. We appreciate the call. Twitter, famously a scientific place to conduct such research. 16-13, Oregon at Wisconsin, or over Wisconsin at Wisconsin was that might have been the most surprising outcome of the weekend. I know that didn't get upset. Obviously, that would have been shocking. Yeah. But to see the number one team in the country labor that way against, what are they, 500 now, Wisconsin?
Mm-hmm. And without their quarterback, Tyler Van Dyke, who went down in that Alabama blowout loss. But you're also asking Oregon to, cross multiple time zones. And that's a tough ask to do and stay undefeated in the process.
To me, and I, honest to God, I think that should be factored in when you're talking about these Big Ten teams, specifically this year. Because didn't we have the same conversation around Ohio State? Ohio State's about the only Big Ten team to make that West Coast trip to go to Oregon or change time zones that way.
And be competitive.
Because the other Big Ten teams, whether it's like USC coming east, or I don't know, what's another example of a Big Ten team going west and getting slaughtered off the top of my head. But still, that the best case for Oregon in that spot is, they did the thing that Ohio State almost did, but at least they got the job done, even if it didn't look pretty. That the time zone thing is huge for these college kids. Coming up next, we have college football implications for Week 13. Coach Mack also in the second hour, and your opportunity to win some Jelly Roll tickets. I'm Buck Rising, 104.5 The Zone.
It is 11:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Cleveland Browns punched in a Nick Chubb touchdown with under a minute to go to knock off the Steelers under the snow on Thursday Night Football. 24-19 was the final as Cleveland gets its third win. Pittsburgh falls to 8-3. In other NFL news, the New York Giants have released quarterback Daniel Jones. Earlier this week, they announced they benched him in favor of Tommy DeVito, and Drew Lock was upgraded to the backup spot, and now Daniel Jones will hit the waiver wire. College basketball, Tennessee pulled away in the second half to beat Virginia in the Bahamas, 64-42 to stay unbeaten. Chaz Lanier with 26 points. The 11th-ranked Vols face number 13 Baylor in the Baha Mar Hoops Championship tonight. With tip-off at 8:30, Vol Network coverage on The Zone starts at 8. Titans travel to NRG Stadium to take on the division-leading Houston Texans Sunday. L'Jarius Sneed, Tajay Spears, Leroy Watson, and Roger McCreary did not practice yesterday. Calvin Ridley and Jeffrey Simmons returned to practice. Brian Callahan will give an injury update later today. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second hour on this Friday. We're moving fast. We got a lot of fun to have in particular in this second hour. Coach Mack will be here in 20 minutes. We have Jelly Roll tickets to give you if you give us your Friday Fire. Not yet. Not yet. At 11:45 today is when you can win some Jelly Roll tickets. In the meantime, college football implications, college football playoff implications for this week 13 in the world of college football. Indiana-Ohio State is one of the biggest games being talked about. It's number 5, Indiana, in the college football playoff rankings, going to number 2, Ohio State. It is the first and only quality opponent that Indiana will really face on their schedule this season, and it is their last and really only chance this season to prove that they are in fact legit. We've gotten into the place where SEC fans are comfortable pointing out fraudulence, rightly so if they feel like their programs, and there's a bunch of them who are in a logjam, feel like they're about to get slighted and slighted on behalf of who? The Hoosiers? Absolutely not. Well, Heather Dinich was on Get Up with Paul Feinbaum and Mike Greenberg. This was yesterday, breaking down all the different implications for this college football playoff because of just this one game.
Ohio State, Indiana, what are the implications that everybody needs to know?
Well, the committee will be looking if this is a close game. I can't stress that enough because, look, if this is lopsided one way or another, the answer is very clear. But again, I go back to who you lost to and how you lost as being so important in that room. And they are set up as whoever loses, it's a loss to a top 5 team. That is a good loss. So if it's by a field goal, if it's close, I could certainly see the loser staying in that game. But Ohio State is different because that's a 2-loss team. And it's much harder to answer the question of where they are with those 2-loss SEC teams without knowing, Greeny, how the rest of that Saturday plays out.
Ohio State, Indiana.
So that is courtesy of Get Up. That is ESPN college football reporter and basically committee reporter, committee correspondent, Heather Dinich, breaking down the implications from that game specifically. It's going to be fascinating. I know Tennessee needs them to lose. Indiana, I obviously am rooting for one of the most improbable sights of my lifetime, which is Indiana going to Columbus and winning. I get that the shine is worn off. The allure of that, one of the most losing college football program, going to a power like Ohio State with an undefeated record and pulling off an upset as a 2-touchdown underdog at this point would be sick. But there are a bunch of different SEC teams that need Indiana to lose this weekend.
And lose big.
Yeah.
Look, I know some people believe if Indiana loses, regardless of margin, they should be out. I do not. I think if Indiana proves they belong on the field with Ohio State, and this is a 4-quarter game to the end, then Indiana deserves to be in. That's just me. But if it is, I think back to a couple of years ago, do you remember the run that Michigan State started on 2 seasons ago, maybe 3, maybe 2021. It was when Kenneth Walker was having an unbelievable season.
I think it was longer than that.
I think it was the 21 season because it was Mel Tucker, and before all that mess came crashing down, he got his big contract out of it. They started 8-0, 10-0, whatever it was. They were a top 5, top 10 team. Peyton Thorne making plays. Kenneth Walker was the best running back in the country at the time. And then they played Michigan. And Michigan beat them down. I mean, Michigan stomped them into the turf, and that game was over in the second quarter at halftime. If we get that, where it's like, oh, okay, all right, so that's what they are, then no, they don't deserve to be in. Sure. But if it's a 4-quarter game, if it's Penn State, Ohio State, where Penn State's got the ball inside the 10, and yes, they choke it away, but they lose by a touchdown, then Indiana deserves to be in my opinion. So I don't care about if they were a bigger brand, they'd be up to number 2. Right. If Michigan was 10-0 with that same schedule, they probably would be higher than 5. But Michigan has shown us year over year that they are a program that will.
No, Indiana has literally never done this in its existence. It's completely fair to say, okay, but like it's been fun. How real is this actually? And I would say I know, again, I'm biased, so maybe I'm not the person to be speaking on this, and I know there are other games of college football playoff implications to get to this weekend. Tennessee playing UTEP, obviously. You know, you need to beat them, and you need to beat them badly. Like, that's just what it needs to be. That's your Tennessee football analysis for this week.
Senior day. UTEP 2-8. You better be playing a lot of those walk-on seniors in the third quarter.
I would just do that, and we don't have to talk about anything else regarding Tennessee this week other than them handling business soundly. Maybe I'm doing what got done to Tennessee fans last week. Don't you feel like you got a little gaslit last week?
What do you mean?
Heading into Georgia by all the different people saying all the different reasons why you should have a chance, and then Georgia turns it on and you get not stomped, but you get handled.
All those matchup advantages were very real going in. Georgia's offensive line had played horrendously.
Right.
And they did a 180. They had a dominant performance.
And Tennessee also did not have their best day.
No, it was very surprising that front couldn't even bother Carson Beck, much less get him down at any point in that game. So
Carson Beck does things that you haven't seen him do in a month and a half of football.
And it coincides with him having the best pass protection he's had all year in any semblance of a run game.
But I feel like that's kind of what I now know that I'm starting to be a fan of Indiana football because now I'm scared. Like now
there you go. BIS or BHS, battered Hoosier syndrome.
BHS sounds, I think, more appropriate. It also sounds like something that would require like hemorrhoid cream or something.
Like a venereal disease.
No, don't love. They all sound like venereal diseases.
So obviously the rooting guide is clear, right? You'd love for Ole Miss, if you're a Tennessee fan, to lose to Florida in the swamp. DJ Lagway played pretty good football,
trying to get paid.
Mm-hmm. Hey, maybe Lane Kiffin is hoping to take down the Gators. I don't know how close he was to taking the Florida job, but I don't know how that game is weighing in the mind of Lane Kiffin on the personal side. That's an 11 a.m. kickoff. And we know all the obvious ones, right? You'd love for Army to knock off Notre Dame. Although there was an interesting, Blake Topmeyer joined us yesterday with Blaine, and he did say, he's like, forget the Army game. Notre Dame could lose to USC on the road. They got to go to USC in the regular season finale. He said, I think that's a more likely upset than Army beating Notre Dame.
I understand why you're saying that you want to see Army beat Notre Dame, but I do not want to see Army in like anywhere close to the college football playoff, respectively.
Tennessee fans want to see it because it would create room for Tennessee.
But I'm saying just like objectively, beyond just the Tennessee rooting guide here, like, do you really want Army to do this? No.
I don't care. But that would be the discussion. If it was undefeated Army with that win over Notre Dame, would they get in over 11-1 Boise, who has the Heisman finalist and a close loss against number 1? I don't know. The sneaky one that we have not touched on at all this week is Penn State going to Minnesota. Minnesota is 6-4, but a couple plays away from being 8-2 this season. Minnesota beat USC at home. Penn State beat USC on the road in overtime. So you look at some of those common opponents. And the reason you kind of scoff at that is James Franklin's done nothing but win these games, right? And lose to the Ohio States. Penn State, 11.5-point favorites on the road. So I'd be surprised if that trend, reverses itself, this 2:30 CBS kickoff.
Well, it's just one of those things where it should be a trap game, but James Franklin normally handles these kind of situations well. Games that he's favored in, he wins.
Yeah. So the rooting guide is clear.
How about, rooting guide, yes, but just quickly on implications. How about BYU Arizona State this weekend?
Yeah, interesting one for an Arizona State team that has this quiet little path to the Big 12 championship. And then on the flip side, kicking off at the exact same time, Colorado hosting Kansas. Kansas is red hot right now. They need to win out to make a bowl game. They've got a ton to play for. Jalen Daniels is playing great football. Colorado's playing great football. Yeah, two very, very intriguing Big 12 games at 2:30.
I just can't get over how weird it is to say that Indiana is undefeated and Kansas is red hot.
Playing good football.
In the end of November when it should be basketball, and we're definitely talking about football.
They're on a tear of upsets. They knocked off Iowa State 2 weeks ago, and they ruined BYU's perfect season last week. So the Big 12, though, people aren't paying as much attention in terms of what other fan bases need to happen because it's going to be a one-bid league. You know, in all likelihood, Big 12 is a one-bid league. So also look out for Virginia to knock off SMU maybe at home this weekend, 11 a.m. kickoff.
Somebody just called me unpatriotic because I don't want to see Army in the college football playoff. Is that, in fact, unpatriotic?
I think it is.
I think
we should spread that around.
That
game's at Yankee Stadium, by the way.
Yeah, I've seen Notre Dame play pinstripe bowls there. Like, I don't love the football in the baseball stadium thing, but whatever. It's a unique situation. Are you going to spread around that I'm unpatriotic or that I am just not interested in seeing Army in the college football playoff, as most reasonable college football fans would probably say?
I'd say unpatriotic and low football IQ.
We need to get Keith Bullock on the radio show next week. 615-737-1045 is the number. Coach Dave McGinnis, not low IQ, quite the opposite. He's coming up next. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Of course, on a Friday at this time, we are visited by the main man, the man in black, Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio. Titans at the Texans over the weekend. Divisional game. Been a while since we've had one of those. They've been few and far between so far this season. They're about to get a lot more frequent, and it presents opportunities. Coach Mack, by the way, presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Happy Friday, Mac.
Same to you, Buck. Lucas. Yeah, this is backloaded now. I mean, you said it exactly right. We had one division game, did not win it against Indy here at home, and then there's been a stretch, and then we're getting ready to hit a pretty deep stretch. And I mean, you need to find a way to win a game for this football team. But to win a division game on the road, that would be big.
Certainly against the division leader. The Browns doing the exact same thing to the Steelers last night. It was at home for Cleveland, but still, degree of difficulty, much less in the snow, not the easiest thing in the world. But I mean, that's the way that they've been talking about it with us all week, Mac. And I love that mindset. You know, looking at the Jags from a couple of years ago, how down bad they were in 22, and the way that they rattled off a bunch of wins, including wins in the division, to come back and, you know, unfortunately for the Titans, unseat them at the very end with some controversial reffing in between as well, I might add. But that's exactly the approach that you would want them to have at this point in time, even as unlikely as it may seem externally.
Well, you have to. I mean, that's you got to prepare, and then you've got to go in, you know, with a plan and also a mindset that you're going in to win the football game, and that's just that's the only thing you can do, and that's what you have to do. That's the only way I've ever approached all of my professional career when I was coaching. I mean, and there's going to always be different circumstances, Buck, as you're well aware, you know, of teams that you are with, but the mindset can never change. And so it doesn't surprise me, but that's what you have to do. You just have to do it, because any other way, then you're in the wrong business.
Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio here with us, as he is each and every Friday, whether it's this show or any of the other Zone shows or Mac Talk. They are all made possible. His visits by Two Rivers Ford.
Coach, when you look at the degree of difficulty, the difference in challenges from the Vikings defense and the Texans defense as it pertains to Will Levis, what does that look like from the standpoint of processing and the quick decision-making that has to be done against the Texans defense that is stingy, that has a very talented front, but doesn't send extra pressure nearly as much as Minnesota?
Yeah, you're right, Lucas. And let's just go back and dig a little deeper. I mean, these are two really good defenses, but you're right. The DNA and the bones that both of these defenses are built on are entirely different. You know, the one that we faced last week, I mean, that's an all-up, zero blitz, pressure-based defense with everybody up and then bogeys and disguises and peeling out of there and working really hard to get you behind the chains. But they don't have to be in third and long to be walking everybody up. Last week, you saw everybody up on the line of scrimmage, and that is completely different. What we're looking at now is a pretty pure 4-3 defense. Of course, anybody can, you know, fronts are multiple anymore depending on the personnel group you're playing against. But this is a 4-3 defense that depends on their front four to put some extra pressure, has some run and hit linebackers behind the ball, and then are able to play a multitude of coverages behind it. But with D'Amico Ryans and then Matt Burke, you know, running this defense, what you're going to get, I mean, you're going to get a pretty solid fundamental defense, you know, with not a whole lot of different types of up front mugging gaps, as I like to call it, where they're all walked up. But the personnel that is with this group, as opposed to the last group that we're playing, very similar. And the strength of it is up front, because they've got some very solid dudes up front that they've not only drafted, because they've been drafting high for the last 3 years before they've had any success. So they were high in the rounds. They've taken some really good players up front, and then they've added some really good players on defense and free agency. So they're both really good defenses, but to your point, they're different. The DNA, you know, as you like to say, when you go into game plan against them, it's completely different.
Flipping to the other side of the ball, Mac, with C.J. Stroud and that Texans offense, they've had some ebbs and flows, as every NFL team does this season, but Stroud in particular has looked just a lot less comfortable. Is it as simple as his pass protection isn't as good as it was a year ago?
Well, and I think also Mixon being hurt early. I mean, just watching that last game against Dallas. I watch about the last 5 games that they play, or I try to when I'm watching tape to get ready for a broadcast, watch them against teams that would play maybe similar defenses to what the offense would line up against to see kind of what their ideas and thoughts are. I tell you what, to me, the real strength of this thing and the strength of Stroud's game is the running game. And Mixon's been nicked a little bit. He's not nicked anymore. I mean, the way that he was running against Dallas, most running backs in this league, you guys know this, and we've got sophisticated listeners. They watch enough professional football. Everybody runs, really hard in this league as a running back, but there's a difference when a running back is running angry, and you could see that in Mixon last week. So to start with, I think Stroud will be more comfortable if they can get the running game going early, and then his play-action stuff. Nico Collins has been nicked, and Nico's back now, so there's a great comfort level for him. Even though they lost Diggs, Tank Dell has started to step up. Schultz is doing some things at tight end. But to me, when I watch this team, if as a looking at it on the defensive side of it, with what their offensive strength is, you better stop Mixon pretty early in this game.
And it feels like, at least talking to Jeff Simmons, they feel pretty good about their matchup specifically to that interior defensive line against the interior offensive line this week, Mac, because him and Sweat, they're going to have games where they look excellent. And I know for Sweat, it certainly flashed more last week against the Vikings than maybe it had in the last couple of weeks. But, I mean, that's as good a game as I think I've seen the two of them play together as a tandem this season.
Yeah, and of course, both of those guys, they're at different stages in their development. But they're both. I mean, you need that kind of foundation for a defense, and those two guys, will be able to do that. I think, for quite a while, as long as they're here together, because Sweat has only gotten better. And as you'd expect, a first-year, rookie player that started basically from the first day he stepped onto the field here. And then, learning from what's going on that basically Big Jeff had to learn through too. But yeah, the matchup, I think it's really imperative this ball game when you look at it, that we talk about that run game and we talk about making C.J. Stroud uncomfortable. You need to do that up the middle. And so that center guard triangle, being able to defeat that center guard triangle, is going to be a huge part of this game for this defense.
I told Lucas that I wanted to ask you about officiating right now, but he said you've talked enough about the refs this week, so maybe I'll leave that one alone. Unless you just want me to open the floor for you, Mac, but otherwise we can move on.
No, I've had enough of them. I've had enough of them until they do something else to set me off.
Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio here with us on 104.5 The Zone. His visit's made possible by Two Rivers Ford.
Coach Jarvis Brownlee talked this week about going up against Justin Jefferson over the weekend, that Jefferson told him he's going to be a star in this league. It feels like he's right up there with, as we've talked about it this week, Tavondre Sweat and J.C. Latham in terms of the Titans rookies that have shown the most this season. Just how impressive is it what Jarvis Brownlee is doing when being called upon in a larger role with Awuzie and Snead sidelined?
Well, I mean, you guys were there at every practice. When training camp started, you've never seen this guy back down a bit. I mean, he stepped right in there. It reminds me a lot of the way that Roger McCreary did when he came in as a rookie. Some guys are just older than their chronological years when they step up in the National Football League. But Jarvis Brownlee, I mean, he has not been afraid from day one. I know his secondary coach at Louisville very, very well. He said the same thing about this kid. He said, you get this kid, this is exactly how he's going to be, and he's going to be that way every day. I don't want them to change one bit of the way he's playing, because you've got to be able to have that type of moxie to you as a corner, and then you've got to be able to have some amnesia about it too. Now, technique-wise, he'll learn as he's playing, and he'll learn, who he can hand fight against, who he can't, how to get his hands a little lower. But that mentality that he has, you'd never ever want to take that away from a corner. And I mean, basically they're playing right now with their fourth and fifth corners, and both of those guys, I think, have stepped up into a pretty big void and have done a decent job.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add to that Darrell Baker Jr. has also been playing solid football, because it's not like teams aren't testing them, Mac. They're getting targeted at a pretty frequent rate, and they're just handling their business. And the penalties are one thing, to your point, but as you also said, Brownlee just needs to play more. He needs to just get a little more technically sound, and that comes with reps and experience.
Absolutely. And you don't ever want to take that edge away from corners, really away from any of your players, but from cornerbacks. I mean, that's a different world to live in. And so I agree with what you said about, both of those guys. And you're looking at it and you start the season now, and both of them, you're right, they're testing both of them because they don't have a buffer, on the other side. There's not a vet on the other side of them that people are going to shy away from. They're going at both of them, and I agree with you. For what's been going on, I think they've held up pretty well.
All right, Mac. Lucas has been hugely disrespectful throughout the course of the show today. He's been watching Friday Night Lights on the television here throughout the entirety of the radio show, and it's made us get into a debate.
That's the state championship is happening in the Astrodome, and Permian is just getting throttled right now.
I hate you so much right now. But, Mac, if I'm not mistaken, you had at least some kind of consultation role on Jerry Maguire, right? Do you have a favorite football movie?
Well, yeah, Jerry Maguire, they filmed it. They took over the facility there at the Cardinals when I was the coordinator then, when I was coaching there. I watched all of that thing being filmed. So it would be Jerry Maguire, to me, I love it because I was there when the whole thing was being done there. I mean, it's pretty fascinating watching the behind the scenes stuff that go on. But anytime you're watching the Permian Panthers play, it can't be all bad.
He's Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio. Titans and Texans, noon the kickoff from NRG Stadium, a divisional game that the Titans have a chance to at least start to turn their fortunes around if they can get it done on the road. Mac, have a great trip. I know you guys have a great dinner, as always, planned for Saturday night, and I will certainly see you in the booth on Sunday morning.
Well, all right, Buck. Are you flying into Continental or are you flying into Hobby?
Hobby. I feel like I've done both at this point, and I don't know which one is better. Do you have a recommendation for future travel plans?
Well, Continental is further away. I mean, but Hobby is. It depends on what you're flying. You flying Southwest?
Yeah, I'm a Southwest guy till I die at this point.
Well, I don't want you to die. But Hobby's a pretty straight shot for when you're downtown.
Okay, we love to see it. Are you? So what's the name of the restaurant you guys always go to in Houston?
It's the original Mama Nifa. It's been open since 1973. I've been going since 1973 when I was recruiting Houston. Mama Nifa invented the fajita, and so it's legitimate. It's right off of Navigation, down close, to where we stay. In the hotels, it's down in the barrio, and it's excellent. There's no other place to eat Mexican food in Houston other than Mama Nifa's.
You heard it from the main man himself, Coach Dave McGinnis. Mac, have a safe trip down there, and I'll see you on Sunday.
Don't go to the one that's fancy now out in Westheimer. It's all foo-fooed up.
Well, because that's the one I was looking at.
That's where he's going, Coach.
That's why I stopped you from going to the foo-foo one. Go to the originals.
Always.
Or else. Mac, I appreciate the insights and the advice, as always. That's Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio with us on 104.5 The Zone. You tried to tell me that Jerry Maguire wasn't a football movie.
I feel like it is very football adjacent, but I consider Jerry Maguire to be more in the rom-com, under the rom-com umbrella.
It's a rom-com football movie.
It's a rom-com involving football.
Do they award an Oscar to best football movie of the year? I don't know that they do best rom-com of the year.
No, they don't
either. So then it is a football movie, a rom-com football movie. Football movies can have some diversity to them. It doesn't just have to be any given Sunday with dudes getting their eyes gouged out on the field. That's one of the dumbest football movies out there.
I'll admit it's been a while since I watched Jerry Maguire. Is there any football action during Jerry Maguire, or is it mostly Cuba Gooding Jr. Screaming about "Give me the money"?
There's football action. Like there is less football action than this, than what we're watching right now in studio, because of course the FM radio audience cares about that.
That's a poll question. Is Jerry Maguire a football movie?
You are welcome to do so at Buck Rising. is where you can vote on the polls. We'll update them at the end of the show. I told you I'd never seen the Friday Night Lights movie or TV show, and you were both astounded.
I've never seen the TV show. I don't need to see the TV show. The movie is phenomenal, though, and it's doing a great job of getting me ready for my last high school football broadcast of 2024 tonight. State quarterfinals. Paige hosting Shelbyville.
All right, go ahead and just do your plug. Get it over with.
I appreciate it. My team. Sorry. Thank you. I didn't expect this. 7 p.m.
It's like
tonight.
Greg Sankey. Oh, yeah, that other research that people were doing, I just happened to stumble into it. Oh, you want to set me up for my TV game?
If you say so.
Oh
7 p.m. tonight on my TV 30. Okay, I do want to say this. The Paige Patriots are undefeated this year. These stats look like typos, but their defense has allowed 18 points all season. They've allowed 2 touchdowns all season. They're 12-0. They've allowed less than 900 yards.
That's
in
wild.
12 games.
That's crazy.
Eric Hazard, the Louisville commit, one outside linebacker. Brendan Ains, the Tennessee commit, on the other side at outside linebacker. And they play a Shelbyville team that has a star running back in Robert Bailey, who we had on as our high school football hero after week 1, who is knocking on the door of a 2,000-yard season at the high school football level. He's got nearly 1,900 yards in 12 games. So it's the unstoppable force meets immovable object situation tonight. I can't wait. Semifinal berth on the line in the 5A class tonight on my TV 30. I'll be on with Bruno Reagan and Sammy Kincaid on the sideline.
Anything else?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Just double checking.
This is such a good movie.
I'm getting recommendations from the YouTube chat that I have to watch the TV show. You both think that the movie is better, and I think that's just because Billy Bob Thornton is in it, and I will watch basically anything that Billy Bob Thornton is in. I am also getting tremendous food recommendations. Houston's just a tremendous food trip, generally. Have you ever been to Houston?
Yeah. Went down there. Last time I went was when the Titans were there in 2022.
Oh, that's right. Did you go to Papado?
Papado's a chain, though. There's Papado everywhere.
It's a Houston chain.
Is it Houston? I did not know that.
It's a Houston chain. That is some of the best seafood that you can get. Texas, not necessarily where you think you can get great seafood.
I'm surprised by that.
Good stuff.
The Papado that I know of in Birmingham is known to be terrible. So I will take your word for it.
I think Houston is the place that it originated.
We are getting, once you bring up best football movies, it always sparks debate. And we're getting all sorts of submissions for We Are Marshall and The Longest Yard. What's the best non-high school football movie? I think that is, because most of the best football movies are about high school football. I just
told you it's Jerry Maguire.
Well, I just disagree with you. But I would say The Longest Yard. I am partial to The Longest Yard.
Yeah, but are you talking about the original or the remake?
They're both awesome.
I don't think I've seen the original. I've definitely seen the remake with Adam Sandler.
I saw it a long time ago.
Because Burt Reynolds is in both.
Yeah, he is. I love the Adam Sandler version.
Yeah,
I think it is low-key one of Adam Sandler's better movies, is The Longest Yard. Adam Sandler is a star quarterback that gets arrested and creates Nelly, Chris Rock, the whole thing. Great movie.
Why can't I be quarterback coach?
Great movie.
Throws it at him. That's why. 615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation. Jackson, remind the people what they can win if coming up next they give us their Friday Fire.
You can win 2 tickets to see Jelly Roll on Tuesday at Bridgestone Arena.
That is what you can get if you call us. What are you laughing about?
You sounded so exasperated there. Jackson's so tired of giving away Jelly Roll tickets. He just has this giant bucket of like 100 Jelly Roll tickets.
He listens to the show. They as a crew listen to the show every day or watch the show every day on the tour bus. Do you want to say something nasty about Jelly Roll?
No, I didn't say anything nasty. Lucas is accusing me of things, false accusations.
No, I agree with him, though. Your attitude is not great.
Sorry you have to spread joy by giving away Jelly Roll tickets, who just seems to just spread joy everywhere that he goes.
Literally,
just a shining light in this world.
The definition of an inspirational person, and you're tired of him.
I hate you both.
615.
The only hate in my heart is for you two.
Good. It keeps me alive. Feels good. 615-737-1045. Give us your Friday Fire, your moment of positivity. It's fitting that we're giving away Jelly Roll tickets because Jelly embodies this, and we so love the energy that it brings. So we want you to bring that same energy. Give us your moment of positivity in sports, in work, in your personal life, professional life, anything that you've got going on that you want to share with the world. As you feel good, your Friday Fire, tell us coming up next, and we'll get you those Jelly Roll tickets. That's right. What made you feel good? What's your Friday fire? We got some Jelly Roll tickets to give you. We always like hearing your success stories, even though Bert likes to paint me as a bad guy who never likes to hear anything positive. I do enjoy Friday Fire. It's one of my favorite segments of the week. 615-737-1045 is how you call in, and you will be put on hold. Remember to stay on hold after you give your submission, because that is how Jackson will get back in contact with you once we have determined who will win the tickets. So, Adam Schefter made an appearance on Kevin Clark's show, which is just called This Is Football. It's a podcast. It's also on ESPN. And he was telling Kevin Clark a story in response to the question, where's the weirdest place you've ever broken news? This was Adam Schefter.
1 second.
Oh, boy.
Allegedly.
How? I mean, that was a second. Should I wait 2 or 3?
Just start counting.
No, that's terrible radio.
Permian is driving.
All right, do a little play-by-play on
in
Friday
the
Night
Astrodome.
Lights.
47 seconds left, fourth quarter. State championship on the line. Do you know what class? I don't know what classification this game was in. Who is that? Yeah, I don't have any.
Why are we so bad at radio? Why? The audio one isn't ready. The play-by-play guy. God. It's fine. Play it.
I can remember being in Denver one time, and I was how do I say this? I had just spent time with this woman for the first time.
Yeah. Okay.
And
sure.
And got a text that Dale Carter was being suspended. I think it was for 8 games for substance abuse. And so as I continued to lay there, confirm it, and got the job done, Kevin, in every which way.
Wait for Kevin's reaction.
I'm just staring straight at the camera, buddy. I'm just that's it. That's it. This is the greatest episode we've ever had.
The weirdest place he's ever broken a story.
Adam Schefter, breaking news. He didn't clarify whether he was in the act of coitus or post-coitus, but Adam Schefter, weirdest spot he's ever broken news, spending time with a woman, I assume prior to meeting his wife.
I assume so.
That's my Friday fire.
My Friday fire is Jamus Winston, who was living out a dream, it looked like, last night, leading a team on a game-winning drive in the snow in prime time. I don't care that the Browns are 3-8 now or whatever they are, but this is Jamus Winston talking to Cleveland media after the game.
This is really an NFL's film moment. The snow starts pouring down. It starts getting like I felt like my feet started getting heavy because I'm squishing through the snow. And man, it was so good, and it was so great to end up in that win.
I love him so much.
That's not even the best Jamus quote from last night. You didn't see
he had
him.
Several pre-game. He was amazing. He was incredible with Kaylee Hartung. He was doing Snow Angels with the Thursday Night Football Prime crew. What was the quote when he was walking off the field? That
I'm about to order a dub off Amazon.
Amazon's going to be at my house by 9 o'clock. That's how quick it is. So, Jamus Winston was the number 1 overall pick. Right?
I love him.
And it would be so easy for, when you think Jamus Winston, to think about a number 1 overall pick at quarterback that just didn't pan out in a way that you expect a number 1 pick. But I think he has made it to where when you think about Jamus Winston, you think about the most joyful human being who seems to just spread happiness everywhere he goes. When Cleveland was in New Orleans last week, did you see the line of former Saints teammates to just greet Jamus? And he greets every single one of them like it's his brother or cousin.
They've got an inside joke. Yeah. They got a handshake. They got everything.
That he hasn't seen in forever. Everybody is so happy to see him. He just does nothing but spread joy everywhere he goes. That's what's going to be his NFL legacy. And that's a special thing for a guy who was a number 1 pick as a quarterback. So Jamus Winston is my Friday fire.
Is he likable enough to have graduated from the crab legs jokes?
Well, the crab leg jokes just adds to it to me.
I also think that makes me love him more.
Of all the things football players have gotten in trouble for, like bad things, right? Domestic violence and getting in trouble with the law. I'm sorry, but shoplifting crab legs is one of the funniest ones in football history.
In Tallahassee,
at a Publix, right? Just one of the funniest off-field incidents in football history.
He got the complimentary cookie that they give you at Publix or whatever. He said, "No, I want some complimentary crab legs." That's what I'm jealous of the Browns. I know the Browns are as miserable, if not more miserable, than the Titans this year, but at least they're having fun with Jamus. Like, at least Jamus Winston is there to uplift spirits. 615-7. Oh, Jackson, what's your Friday Fire? Also, 615-737-1045 if you want to give us your Friday Fire and win some Jelly Roll tickets.
Mine is Connor Stallion's dedication to a university he never attended, the University of Michigan. They flipped Bryce Underwood, the number one quarterback from LSU. Connor Stallion's joined Underwood's high school coaching staff just 2 weeks ago, and all of a sudden the kid's going to Michigan.
No.
He's back.
That was huge news this week.
No, I know.
He's iced out completely from the university. They want nothing to do with him, and he is still helping them.
That man bleeds Michigan blue.
Did you? Well, it's not
I
that.
hope
It's the
to be
Dave
dedicated
Portnoy. I
to-
gave him a bunch of money and was on a phone call with the family and stuff like that. A part of the reason, for sure. Did you see the amount of people pissed at Brian Kelly? Because that is a huge, as big a win as that is for Michigan, it's a bigger loss for LSU.
There's a lot of equity around Brian Kelly because of Bryce Underwood being pledged to LSU. Of all the problems they've had this year, I did see CBS Sports report that Garrett Nussmeier, that there's kind of whispers that Nussmeier could come back next year. But, yeah, that's a huge blow, because that was something that LSU fans could fall back on with all their anger towards Brian Kelly. But he's got Bryce Underwood coming, and that dude is as blue chip gets at the quarterback position, and he's going to Michigan. You can't make that stuff up. Just a couple weeks after Connor Stallings joins the coaching staff of his high school.
Have we learned nothing? I told Lucas and Jackson earlier that I recently found out that I've been paying for Hulu, so I've started rewatching the league, and I've just got Rodney Ruxin in my head. Collusion everywhere. That and Vinegar Strokes. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to get involved. What's your Friday Fire if you want to win some Jelly Roll tickets? Let's start up first with James.
Hey guys, thanks for taking my call. So I'm kind of a funny one, so stay with me as I go through it. Yesterday, as we all know, it was a very windy day, very nasty day. And I started my day yesterday morning getting in my work truck and about to leave the house for work. And I hear a big bang. I'm like looking around and trying to figure out what it is. And it is a tree that has fallen over me and my brother's cars, essentially totaling both. We don't know yet. We're waiting on insurance, but completely just went right over them. They're done for. And I'm just very grateful and positive that none of us were in those cars at that time. I didn't have my work truck parked there at that time. And so just very grateful for that fact and very grateful for insurance. So, yeah, just trying to stay positive throughout it all. Cars can be replaced, but, me and my brother's life can't. So just very glad, nothing bad happened and we were all safe.
Yes, we are also glad that you're safe. That is a very good attitude to have about you and your brother's car getting crushed by a tree. Well done by James. Jordan is next.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still sitting here laughing about the thought of Schefter flopping around on some poor girl. Anyways, my Friday fun.
I was not thinking about it that way. No.
And James, we're glad you're okay, bud. But
I'm not okay.
My Friday Fire is for Baker Mayfield and his incredible popularity reclamation project. There's a high school team, football team right outside of Tampa called the Space Coast Vipers. They were 1-8 last year. They got a new coach this year. He found that they needed new helmets, new uniforms, and that the helmets they had, they might not even be able to compete in their kind of AA league. So they reached out to Baker. He got them new helmets, new pads. Now they're 9-3 going into their first ever state championship game. So
awesome.
Kudos to Baker doing that. And it's just one of those great feel-good stories that you wish we had more of in sports.
No, it's an excellent submission.
Yeah, that was really
I think
cool.
I saw it on Instagram or maybe on SportsCenter yesterday. Good job by Baker. Anytime you can, and just for them to have that turnaround just by getting, base level equipment and stuff like that is awesome. Chad is next.
Yes, sir.
What you got?
My Friday fire was for Jerry Jones. The man cannot be the owner, the CEO, the coach, the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator, all at the same time. You got to love him, but I'm a lifelong Cowboys fan, and my Friday fire is for Jerry Jones.
What was positive about it?
Maybe that he's a lifelong Cowboys fan. Maybe that he loves Jerry.
He wants him fired, is what he told me.
Oh,
okay.
Oh, you want him fired?
So just fundamentally misunderstood the game. That's okay.
That's fine.
We keep it moving.
That's fine. It's not going to happen, but that's fine. I appreciate it, Chad. Justin is next.
Friday fired.
We should. Well, I mean, we're getting pretty close to Friday fired.
I got a sports one. I think it's an incredible example of perseverance and inspiration. It's the player for Austin Peay that lost his arm when he was 6 years old, Hansel Emmanuel. Went out there versus Tennessee, dropped a 3, got an incredible steal and a layup, and then had an awesome block right after that. So I think a kid out there playing with one arm, dropping dimes, kind of shows everyone that anything you're going through, you can persevere and rise above.
Yeah, no, he's been such a cool story for a couple of years now.
Baller.
But yeah, recently against Tennessee, he put on a pretty good show against Tennessee, the number 11 team in college basketball right now.
Yep, playing number 13 Baylor tonight in the Bahamas after knocking off UVA last night.
Let's squeeze in one more here. How about Abby next?
Hi, guys. I heard a rumor, and I know you three guys are up on everything going on, but I was wondering if you could tell me whether it's true that Mike Vrabel sent Miss Amy a singing Christmas card with a take on the late, great Toby Keith's song, How Do You Like Me Now?
I cannot 100% confirm, Abby. That also sounds. Mike Mularkey probably did. Maybe you have the wrong Mike.
Maybe it was Mularkey.
Mike Mularkey just cannot stop giving this organization double middle fingers, and I cannot stop laughing at that. I respect that level of extended pettiness.
Yeah, Vrabel is 3-8 for what it's worth, but it was a good call.
But he's got Jamus. He's having a better time than we are. He's got Jamus at least. All right, we got James, Jordan, Chad, Justin, and Abby with some speculation that made me laugh.
Those were all good. They were all excellent. James with the tree falling on the car. He
Go
and his
ahead and
brother
tell
are
James
safe.
he can't have the concert tickets because he simply has his life, as opposed to it's a great mindset to have about your car getting crushed by a tree. I would not handle it that well.
Jordan with the Baker charity thing. Justin with the Austin Peay player, and Abby with the hilarity. But yeah, let's give it to James.
I think I want to give it to Jordan.
Oh, so you're telling James?
I was hoping you would do it for me.
Oh, nope. Not me. I would like to give the tickets to the guy who lost his car and many belongings in a terrible natural accident and escaped with his life. Would love to brighten his day by giving him some Jelly Roll
but the
tickets.
Baker story's cool.
Baker story's cool, but
Okay, congratulations, James. You're going to see Jelly Roll. See, you guilted me into it. And that works too.
That's rare.
It's a successful strategy. If you can get to me, we'll get you the tickets. So congratulations to all involved. But still, always send us your stories of positivity every week, every Friday at 11:45 for the opportunity to win great prizes. Coming up next, Levis versus the preseason expectations that you had of him. We'll talk about it.
12:03, good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Titans travel to NRG Stadium to take on the AFC South leading Texans on Sunday. L'Jarius Sneed, Tyjae Spears, Leroy Watson, and Roger McCreary did not practice yesterday. Calvin Ridley and Jeffrey Simmons returned to practice. Brian Callahan will have an injury update in just a few minutes. The Lee Company countdown to kickoff hits the air at 9 a.m. Titans countdown starts at 11 and kickoff with Mike Keith, Coach Mack, and the rest of the Titans radio crew is at noon. In NFL news, the New York Giants have released quarterback Daniel Jones, who was benched at the start of the week. He now hits the waiver wire, the number 6 overall pick from the 2019 NFL draft right here in Nashville. Tennessee basketball, after pulling away from Virginia in the Bahamas yesterday, takes on Baylor. Number 13 Baylor tonight in the Baha Mar Hoops Championship. Tip-off at 8:30. Vol Network coverage on The Zone starting at 8. And the 11th-ranked Vols are back home on the football field for Senior Day at Neyland Stadium, hosting 2-8 UTEP. Vol Network coverage on The Zone begins at 10 a.m. before the noon kickoff. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour. We made it. Welcome in on this Friday. We're happy to have you. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation. Jackson, Lucas, and me until 1 o'clock today. We have cycled through a variety of different movies today in studio. We've gone from what? The Friday Night Lights to, is it Facing the Giants, which is a knockoff of Remember the Titans?
That's how I see it. And now we have Hoosiers on.
No, we have since pivoted from Hoosiers, which is, I think, one of the worst basketball movies. As a Hoosier, I think it's one of the worst basketball movies ever made.
That makes sense because Whoopi Goldberg is a nun in this movie that we're currently watching. And I've never seen Hoosiers, but so I don't know enough to say that Whoopi Goldberg for sure is not in Hoosiers.
I can tell you at that time in Indiana, Whoopi Goldberg as a nun, probably not flying, which is one of the bigger problems with Hoosiers as a movie. But that's neither here nor there. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in beyond just movie watching on a Friday like we've got a substitute teacher, because that's what you do at 2 and 8. We've decided to reconsider our evaluations of Will Levis, or at least reevaluate what our preseason expectations are or were at the time. Levis now, again, has not quarterbacked the team to a win since December 12th of 2023. It's a long time. No question that he's cognizant of it. He's definitely talked about it. He mentioned on Sunday night chasing that feeling, and then had to give comments to the effect of, because, chasing with Will Levis would indicate that he's pressing in ways that we've talked about, and that would raise at least orange flags or yellow flags, if not red ones, about, all right, well, is he going to do it this week again because he's pressing and he's chasing that feeling and it's hero ball or all these other things, whatever. He's just trying to get things back on track as much as humanly possible, which is not what we thought he would be doing heading into week 12 while we were sitting out there on the patio at St. Thomas Sports Park doing the training camp series of shows for about a month, talking about all the different things that they had done and what we thought they might be able to translate that into. Turns out, hasn't translated very well at all, though they have made at least some level of progress in the last 2 weeks since he's been back in the lineup. What were your preseason expectations of Will Levis? Because I'll tell you mine. I really thought that it would work. I genuinely thought it was going to work. Him and the offense. He may work as an NFL quarterback at some point in his career. It may still work out here. But I felt confident in what we were seeing at training camp. I did not have any, second thoughts about them trading Malik Willis as the backup quarterback or as the third string quarterback, because Mason was the backup. And, Will looked good enough in training camp to be the starter without question. And Malik did some nice things and made some progress and went to a much better place that was much better equipped to handle him at the time. And basically had to start right away, ironically enough, and did so to great success and helped the Packers survive a stretch without Jordan Love several times this season. That's been, pretty impressive. So it turns out we were wrong, or at least somewhat wrong, on two fronts.
There were some signs during training camp, though, that I think a lot of us dismissed because it's training camp. And it's hard to take, because you can't do that. You can't say, this is how this player is going to play the season because of what we saw in team drills at training camp. But there were.
It's the best that you have to inform you at the time.
Sure. But
and preseason games are not real football, and he looked fine during the preseason.
But the Calvin Ridley connection was not there in training camp.
Nope.
It was inconsistent at best. And that was it'll get figured out. And it did, but it took half the season. And the Titans were already in a deep hole before, what has been the last few weeks. And Ridley didn't start getting going until Mason Rudolph was playing quarterback. You had instances like the 2-minute drill against Seattle in joint practice, where on the first play, Levis throws an interception, and that's it. The 2-minute drill lasted one play, and it was a pick. And that's not to say, well, he's going to throw a bunch of picks this year, right? You can't have that takeaway, but it was just something you kind of banked. So, I don't know. I think the negatives that we saw in training camp shine through, obviously, in the season more than the positives did. But I'm with you. I thought he would build off last season, and there has been a very square one feeling to this year for Will Levis.
So, let's hear... Well, we'll actually get to Greg Cosell on Will Levis here in just a little bit, as a matter of fact. But let's start with Brian Callahan on if he had any preconceived notions about Will Levis coming into the situation, and how might those have been altered now that he has spent, 6 to 8 months working with this guy in some form or fashion, and we're now heading into week 12 of the NFL season. This was Brian Callahan at the podium on Wednesday.
I don't know that I had any preconceived notions about where he would or wouldn't be. I was just hoping that he would get better every time he went out and would be able to operate the offense and get us in position to score points. And obviously plenty of room for improvement. I think we are improving, but we'd just like to see, again, those moments where we can convert a third down in the red zone, not stall out. And again, some of those are self-inflicted with the penalties, but just finding ways to be better when the field condenses. That's where I think we can do a better job, and Will can help that process as well. As when you get down there and it gets tighter, we have to find ways to make those plays and make those throws and score more touchdowns, because ultimately that's Will's job, is to lead our offense down the field, and we need to score points. And right now I haven't scored enough, and we got to keep hammering away at it.
So that's a fair answer from Brian Callahan, and that is Will's job as he's defined it. But it's also Brian Callahan's job, and we talked yesterday. For those of you who are listening to the radio show, we played for you a part of the podcast with Greg Cosell that is now available on all platforms, Jackson.
Yep.
A few words.
No, unfortunately not. For the podcast, it's available wherever you get your podcast. You can also watch every episode on 104.5 The Zone's YouTube channel. Greg explained why the Titans are not doing a good enough job also helping Will Levis with their offense. They're not giving him enough chances to succeed, where he thinks that other offensive coordinators are doing similar things for young/inexperienced quarterbacks to at least try and get them in a rhythm. Because Greg's point with this, and we'll hear from Greg on things that Levis can do better as well here in just a second. But Greg's point with the offense is, no, you can play with a guy like Will Levis. Like you may not get to a Super Bowl, or he may not become Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, but you can play with a guy like this.
With the version that we're seeing as of late, you could with the first version from the first couple of weeks.
But Greg was saying similar things, like I just don't about both. Right? You could if he just didn't do the thing.
Right?
You could, and he stopped doing the thing. Hopefully, we don't see him do it again. But you could have won a game in Chicago with Will Levis until the moment, yes? So I think that there are plenty of quarterbacks who don't play with the level of timing and anticipation in an offense, or make throws with timing and anticipation in NFL offenses, that you can still do some stuff with. So the question is, how much better can Will Levis do? And also, how much better can the coaching staff do? Because they are not absolved from why he has struggled the way that he has. But there are some things that Will Levis can also stand to do better that I would like to see at least signs of progress of in this upcoming game against the Houston Texans on the road, and you'll hear from Greg Cosell on that coming up next. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. 615-737-1045 is how you get involved. So, relative to expectation, we talked about Will Levis, how he has performed, and fair to say that he's fallen short of our expectations, or at least what our expectations were during the season. Now, I did the A to Z podcast, 615 sessions yesterday with Steve Lehman of News Channel 5, and we had a similar discussion. There was a lot of pushback before we get to this Greg Cosell clip on what Will specifically can do better, and the thing that I would love to see him start doing this week, or at least make strides doing this week. A lot of people pushed back on NFL pundits that were down on the Titans preseason by saying, well, you don't watch them anyway. What do you know? What do you mean this is one of the worst a bottom 5 roster in football? What do you know? What do you mean this is a bottom 5 quarterback in football? What do you know, right? You're not paying attention. You don't watch them anyway. But that was pretty well consensus everywhere but here. And I'm trying to figure out what we missed. Or like where we went, where we got ahead of ourselves. Because you're right. The only way to determine what they're going to be is to watch them play football games. And I've always said that I'm not making any kind of drastic determinations about a football team until I've seen them play, basically a month. Especially a new one, especially with as many pieces as they had. But most people nailed this everywhere but locally. Most people nailed this saying, no, that's a team that could finish in the top 5. Or the bottom 5, rather, as far as
top 5 of the draft.
Top 5 of the draft order. But the bottom 5 of the standings, and they're very much on pace for that. But I just don't know that, even if you'd have told me that this would have been a team with more losses than wins on the season, I just don't know if nobody could have envisioned that this is how they would have gotten there, right?
What's this? The special teams disasters and
special teams nightmares,
early nightmare turnovers.
Levis just having, the turnover situation being so ungodly. Even though Levis is, not somebody who's overwhelmingly careful with the football. I guess at least in his previous track record prior to the season starting, we talked about the amount of interceptable passes he threw last year that just weren't caught by defenders. But how bad it looked for so long to where we're just now starting to talk about, in some areas, baseline competency. I just wonder where you and I miss, because it's more my job than it is you, I guess, to see all the different ins and outs of all the different things that could make this a good football team, a bad football team, a middling football team. And I feel like I've just spent the last couple of weeks trying, where the hell did I overstep or get ahead of myself with what I thought this team could be?
Well, there was no real way to project what special teams would be, right? And that's been a huge contributing factor to their struggles this year. But I don't think it's as much what we missed as much as it is, we talked about it going into the season. Titans fans were perplexed. Why is Will Levis not being listed as one of these? Hey, this second-year quarterback that could take a jump. Why are they not? Did they not watch the Atlanta game? Did they not watch the Miami game? And he wasn't being talked about in that way. I don't think Levis did enough, or people did not pay enough attention to Levis in his rookie year to notice even the highs or the bright spots to say, hey, you know what? Keep an eye on Will Levis. I think there was very much still a mindset that was fixated from his time in college and watching him plummet in the NFL draft to the second round when we were talking about it like he was for sure going to be a top 10 pick, and he wasn't. Whereas the only national voice, it felt like, that voiced that belief was Pete Prisco, right, of CBS.
Well, and Nate Tice. Nate Tice came on here and gave us all the reasons why he thought this would be a good marriage between them based on tape study. And Nate is somebody who I trust to actually do the evaluation of the tape.
But Pete Prisco came to 2 practices and wrote columns about how Will Levis is going to be the next Josh Allen and all of these things. So I think it's more about there wasn't attention really paid. And from what I would hear just listening around to national podcasts and doing these whip around preseason storylines, they don't often pay that much attention or put that much stock in teams that compile rosters through free agency like the Titans did for the most part, unless they have a proven quarterback. And Levis wasn't that. There just wasn't that foundation built in the draft. And there still isn't. There may be starting to with the rookie class now, but there wasn't that. And so I heard one big reason, I think I heard Robert Mays be very dismissive of the Titans in the preseason exactly because of that. He said, when does this ever work? A team that does not have a good foundation in the draft, that had to go out and buy a bunch of players because they don't have anybody to pay in their own building. This does not work. And he was more right than wrong, right? Because they're a 2-8 football
No, that
team.
was the best explanation that I heard for why the thing wouldn't work. But I never heard anything profound on Levis. Like nothing that would really dissuade me from at least going along with the idea. Like, okay, they made decisions that make sense to me based on where they are. It doesn't mean that they're a 10-win football team or even 9-8 or something like that. But they can do better than 6.5, which was their projected Vegas win total. So I've just been thinking about that in the last couple of days, trying to make sure that people get things wrong in sports all the time, especially in football where there's so many different variables that factor into the results. No one player makes a team go, but there are a bunch of different things here that are flawed that I don't necessarily know that we would have had on our bingo card beyond just Levis, which has also become a part of the discussion. So, with Will Levis, what can he do to continue to earn your trust in some form or fashion, even if it's just, to show market improvement in this season, regardless of whether he's your starting quarterback in 2025 or not? What can he do? Well, Greg Cosell of NFL Films did a great job breaking down one specific play. It was an incompletion. Maybe you remember the play that he's getting ready to describe. Maybe you don't. But it was a great example of things that Levis can do within the play to put himself in better positions to succeed that he doesn't do right now with regularity. This was courtesy of the Install Podcast, which you can get wherever you get your podcasts.
The Vikings were in what we call a double mug front, where they have two players on each side of the center, something that the Vikings do a lot in long yardage and on third down, okay? And there's really only two ways to pass protect against that. The most common way is the center is responsible for one of those players in the A-gap, and the back is responsible for the other player in the A-gap. That's the way 99.9% of teams protect against that, okay? So your back needs to be in position to be able to step up and block. Well, on that particular play, the Titans were in the pistol formation, which means the back is behind the quarterback. There's no way that the back can possibly be in position to block one of those double A-gap players. It's incumbent upon Levis, and this is what made me think of it, because I've been hearing Brady every week, and it made me just think, watching the play of, Will, you have to move the back. That's your responsibility. You have to make it a shotgun formation, not a pistol formation, so the back can be in position to step up and block. Because whoever it was, I think it might have been Cashman, ended up rushing, and Spears, I believe it was, tried to do it but he's behind the quarterback. Yeah. He can't do it. So he ended up not really being able to do it. Levis had to kind of rush up and just make, a hurried random throw, and just that's what managing a game is about, on those kinds of things. And, ideally that comes with experience, but that's also not a super difficult thing. So you'd like to think that you'd be able to do that now. So again, I don't want this to come across as, boy, Levis is stupid. He doesn't know how to play. He's got a lot of things going on in his head right now. He hasn't won to start this year. I mean, there's a lot going on. And I'm not looking to defend him, but, that's something you've got to be able to do.
Which is completely reasonable. And it makes a lot of sense. Now, I don't know if that description is good enough for people to picture that play in his head, because he threw it deep, I want to say to Ridley in double coverage, and it just ended up being an incompletion. And by the way, the play may end up in an incompletion anyway, even if he makes the right adjustment. But what I'm looking for from him in particular is, are you, as an individual, regardless of your circumstance, putting yourself in the best possible position and your teammates in the best possible position to make the play? Are you properly identifying these things? Are you doing all the different intricate details or operating with all the different intricate details that a quarterback absolutely must have to at least give the play a chance, right? Other than, well, I didn't do it. Tajay's trying to make the block. I'll just wing it down the field, and hopefully it'll fall incomplete, or maybe Ridley makes a play. Because that's what ended up happening. And that is something that I think you can point to and say, well, if he's still not doing that yet, it's a red flag, but I would like to see him accomplish that with 7 games left remaining.
Bart on the F&M Bank chat says, national media said Levis would be a big factor on if we were good or not, and he hasn't been good enough at all.
Yes, that is accurate. But also, there are a bunch of different things that haven't been good enough at all, including the coaching staff. 615-737-1045 is the number. Let's go to Keith up next. Hey, Keith.
Great point.
All right, good talk, Keith.
Makes you think.
Are you tired of that joke yet?
Yeah. It's not funny. Stopped being funny a long time ago.
Oh, my goodness. Is there anything beyond what we've talked about that he could show you?
I'm legitimately curious about Sunday because I do think that is a different challenge, playing the Texans defense as opposed to the Vikings, where on the Vikings, it's quick decision, cut it loose, right? You're going to get man-on-man coverage. There's probably going to be somebody open with the extra pressure that they send. Stand in the pocket, take a hit, and he has no problem doing that. With the Texans, things could be harder to read for Will Levis. So I am curious to see how he responds to that challenge. And like you said, they haven't won a game with him starting and playing this season. They won the Dolphins game that he started and played about 7 snaps. So there is something to that. And I know all we do is talk about how flawed QB wins as a stat, how flawed a stat QB wins is. But there is something to that. Like they have to, should we talk about proof of concept? Show proof of concept that you can play winning football with Will Levis. Not just, hey, did some good things on Sunday, but you still lost by 10.
Yeah, the bar is, I mean, the bar is so low. Like it's impossibly low. So we're for everybody. And I think that those standards should continue to elevate each week that we see them do something and then tell us, well, it wasn't good enough to win this week, but I see it. What was the line from Callahan? There's good things going on under the surface of it, right? Which, okay, like I acknowledge you have a great deal more access as the head coach of the football team to what the football team might be doing well and what you see based on the process that you believe to be correct about how you're going to put together a winning football team and all this kind of stuff. But once you say that comment, it's then fair to follow up. Okay, well, when is it going to come to the surface?
Yeah. Steve on the F&M Bank chat says, Mahomes hits those hurried random throws, though. So does Allen, Brady, Burrow, Stroud, Herbert. It's on Levis.
Okay.
My point is, Levis was hitting those on Sunday.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he was.
Yeah.
He was making those quick snap decisions and taking advantage of the blitz. So Levis was doing that on Sunday. One got called back because of an illegal formation, right? And they still lost the game. But he was
good against the blitz.
Sunday. Yeah.
He was good against it. He was good against the blitz as he was in a clean pocket, to his credit. And he was fine. Again, it wasn't good enough. It needs to be better. But you cannot compare him to all those other players who are in a completely different class than him. He's not those guys. He's just not. Maybe he ends up being close, but he's not those guys. What was the line that he used when he was asked this week about Herbert, or rather Stroud and Richardson and Young? Comparison is the thief of joy. You're not in a position to compare him to those quarterbacks. He's not in a position to compare himself to those quarterbacks. It is a failing proposition to spend time wishing that he was something that he's not or hasn't shown to be yet. The only thing that you can do with him is watch him on a weekly basis, make the determinations of, is he getting better? Is he getting better in areas that we know that he has been struggling in? Is he leveling out? Is he becoming more well-rounded on a weekly basis? And then it's their job to make that determination at the end of the year, whether that's good enough for them to continue the experiment beyond 2024 or not. But the idea of sitting here and doing, well, he's not Mahomes, Allen, Brady, Burrow, Stroud, Herbert, Lamar, MVP type quarterbacks on a 2-8 football team. Yeah, no bleep. Like, that's not analysis. That's just the laziest version of the argument because you're dissatisfied with the quarterback position. Which, by the way, it's fair to be dissatisfied with the quarterback.
It's not been good enough. And there's a long road to go still to get to the point where you're even having the conversation about running it back with Levis as the starter in 2025. But quick news from the facility, nothing surprising at all, but Brian Callahan has officially ruled out L'Jarius Sneed and Leroy Watson for Sunday.
Mayor Ron is up next on the phone, 615-737-1045. What you got, Ron?
Hey, I was thinking about this, and I can't pull it up as quickly as y'all probably could, but my comparison for Will Levis, who played tight end before he played quarterback, would be New Orleans Saints player Taysom Hill. He plays tight end, and he can also play quarterback, and he's had quite a few starts. If you compared, I don't know how many starts Taysom's had, but this comparison to me is pretty even, I would think. But also, I hope this don't make you mad, Buck, and I know it's going to because it made me mad. But Levis has the easiest strength of schedule quarterback for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I know. I saw that too.
Baker Mayfield second. So unless Levis is just horrible, he's going to be back next year.
Yeah, I saw that too. I was reading some Pro Football Focus stuff this morning that talked about, especially against the secondaries that he's facing, he's got one of the easiest schedules in football. Now, does he capitalize on that the way that we talked about them trying to capitalize on injury stuff last year? Remains to be seen. L'Jarius Sneed is going to injured reserve. So not only is he going to miss this time, he's going to miss at least 4 more games, which starts with Houston on Sunday. That is just such a disappointing situation. Such a disappointing situation.
Duck Falling on the F&M Bank chat says Taysom Hill was an actual good college quarterback. Taysom Hill went undrafted. He was a kind of a wacky college quarterback. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say he was a good college quarterback in his 18 years that he started games at BYU.
He also says that Taysom Hill is an elite athlete. I would say that Taysom, I mean, you probably don't think of him that way, and maybe you do just the stereotypical cliches with white athlete in the NFL where he's sneaky athletic or sneaky fast or all these different qualifiers that people tend to use around tiny white slot receivers.
But that dude is 34 years old and breaking one.
No, he's good.
75 yards down the sideline. He's awesome.
A legit athlete.
He had like 7 carries for 140 yards or something. 3 touchdowns on Sunday.
You probably won your game in fantasy football this week if you were starting Taysom Hill at tight end, which I can't believe that they let you do. I cannot believe that. Let's go to Steve up next.
Buckster, how we going? How are we doing this Friday?
Good.
We doing good? Hey, I'm glad to see you're finally giving Will a chance. I'm still going back, and I think you do agree with me a bunch. This coaching staff, it's not good. And hopefully they all get better because we're all growing together. But this first-year play calling stuff, I do hope Rand has a conversation with him and says, hey, buddy, Nick Holtz is your offensive coordinator. Let's let him make the calls. I do think you noticed something different with that. But, hey, have a nice trip to Houston. Enjoy the food. And have a good weekend, man. You'll be warmer than us.
Thank you for the call, Steve. I appreciate it. Stay warm out there. Let's hear from Greg Cosell. We don't have to hear the full 2-minute clip, Jackson. I'll tell you when to fade it down. But Greg Cosell to the point of fair criticisms, not just for the quarterback, for the coaching staff, courtesy of the Install podcast.
You know, look, I see a lot of quarterbacks. I see a lot of coaches. I've seen a lot through the years. And obviously there's certain things. Everybody has their own personal worldview of what they think is, who's in the business, of the kinds of things they like and don't like. So when I watch coaches with quarterbacks, and I'm a big believer in coaching just based on my background, guys who taught me, because obviously, I did not play football in high school or college because of where I grew up. So I had to learn football, and I was fortunate being taught by incredibly smart people. And, I keep doing that. I keep talking to coaches as much as I can. So I have a sense in my mind of what I, think really helps quarterbacks. And every coach wants the primary receiver in a route concept to be the one who gets the ball. Now, is that going to happen all the time? Of course not. But what you're trying to do for a quarterback is you're trying to present a route concept or concepts where it's clean. So when he drops back and he looks to number one, he can deliver the football. That's what you're trying to do. So, we've mentioned Caleb Williams. One of the things that the new coordinator did last week, I actually think Shane Waldron did some of this as well, but Williams didn't execute it as well as he did last week. And don't forget, this was a humbling experience for Caleb Williams as well, because when your OC gets fired, he gets fired because you're not performing. That's why he got fired. So it's humbling for Caleb Williams. But there were so many just quick one read, no read throws. Okay. So now you give a quarterback completions and he starts to feel like he's into the game. And when I watch the Titans, sometimes I feel like those kinds of completions are not there, and the thing about Levis is he's not a pure timing anticipation guy. He's always probably going to be just a beat late. And there are quarterbacks in the league who are, and you can play. It's not like you can't play. But you have to understand that and just give him the kinds of routes and concepts where, hey, he can see it and he can throw it. That he's not sort of, is that a little murky? Do I have to make a tight window throw? Do I have to throw it off a guy that I'm not sure where he's going to be? You start getting into that and you're just playing into the fact that he's going to be a beat late. And again, this is no knock on Callahan. They're working through it too. They're trying to figure out, because don't forget, Levis has missed a lot of time. And I'm telling you right now, you talk to coaches and they'll tell you it takes 3 years really to work with a quarterback every day. Now, fans don't want to hear that, and we all get that, but that's sort of the reality of life.
That is Greg Cosell of NFL Films. The latest news, L'Jarius Sneed to injured reserve. Also some other updates that you'll need to know before the Titans take on the Texans this week. That's coming up next. Last segment of the week. Thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. Couple of injury updates to provide to you before the Titans take on the Texans this Sunday, courtesy of Brian Callahan. L'Jarius Sneed, Leroy Watson, Jack Gibbons, obviously, and Tajay Spears all ruled out for this game. Sneed is going to injured reserve, as will, it sounds like that Jack Gibbons will also go to injured
He's not
reserve,
yet.
though that they have not specified at that point, but they are saying that they plan to put Sneed on IR tomorrow, which again means that he will miss 4 more games. At that point, I don't know.
He would be back week 16. So he's missed 5, right? The last 5?
Yeah, he's missed 5. And he wasn't, I didn't think he was playing like great football before the injury. You can't predict the injuries. It happens to star players all the time, but that's one of the biggest disappointments of the year. And a year that has a ton of disappointments all over the place and some more significant than others. That is both your biggest ticket acquisition this offseason. It's not more disappointing than the coaching staff or the quarterback situation at this point, but it's probably third on that list.
Yeah. Well, it's
unless you want to put MPF up there.
I think Sneed was.
Who, by the way, is your starting right tackle again.
And John Njoku is rotating in this week as the backup.
And you asked me what?
In the break?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Isaiah Prince thing. I thought we are not offensive line tape gurus, but I thought beyond the illegal formation penalties, which were crippling, absolutely huge reason why he lost that game, one of a few reasons, but I don't know. I'm surprised. I thought he would be given maybe another opportunity. It felt like he held up,
He had too many bad snaps. I mean, they all have too many bad snaps, right? You're picking from the lesser of, at this point, like 5 evils. We'll have to keep from crying, I guess. But I think I would agree with you. I didn't think that the illegal procedure things were bad enough to not at least give him the same opportunity that a bunch of other guys have gotten, but I also didn't think they should have benched Leroy Watson after the first start that they gave him. I thought that was crap.
It feels like a fixable issue, right? The illegal formations.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty,
right.
But it also, one would think that he would also have been able to fix it in the game, and he didn't. So, I guess there are two sides to this thing. Tajay, also, unfortunate. Tajay dealing with a concussion. Hopefully he gets back as soon as he's able, as soon as he's feeling better. And then Jack Gibbons, a player that we've talked about, quality depth, if nothing else. He was playing pretty solid football at the time of the injury, and now likely done for the year with surgery that sounded like it was successful, but an unfortunate situation for him. The other part of this is Roger McCreary listed as questionable.
Yeah.
That is, I would argue that's the most significant thing for Sunday specifically, is having Roger McCreary out, because on the number one passing defense in football, and the Titans do still have that to their credit, Roger McCreary has been really solid, if not great at times, all year long. If he can't go in a week where the Texans wide receivers are starting to get healthier, I didn't think Nico Collins looked great out there on Monday night, but it's better to have him than not. That would be something, beyond them already targeting the corners the way that every other opposing quarterback has.
The last of the good John Robinson draft picks, Roger McCreary.
The last? The only in the last 3.
The last one. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's just the one. Mm-hmm. He's one. I think I remember looking this up. This has been a year ago, so maybe I'm slightly off. But if I remember correctly, in those last 3 J-Rob drafts, they had 11 top 100 picks, and Roger McCreary is the only one to turn into anything of consequence of those players who were picked in the top 100, which is just egregious. Molden did too, but he's not here anymore.
If you want a silver lining, the Danico Autry revenge game might not happen.
That is actually a silver lining.
He has not practiced for 3 straight days, and he was not spotted today at Texans practice, according to reporters in Houston.
Now, Fridays are typically a walkthrough, so that's notable. But he's also an old man, and the Titans would do that here too.
But that's 3 straight absences. So he hasn't really practiced this week.
Sure. But again, he's an old man, so I would not. I would not until if they rule him out, then it's different.
He's also didn't play for the first 6 games, so he doesn't have the wear and tear of an entire season, but just something to monitor.
Yeah. Polls, please.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, which is the South's most trusted Ford dealer, of course. What is the most positive story you've seen in sports this week? Karen says Gino Auriemma becoming the all-time winningest coach in Division I.
No, I don't.
Did not expect that one today. I gotta be honest.
I mean, good for Gino. Obviously, he's a good basketball coach. I'm fine with not overwhelmingly celebrating Gino Auriemma for a great many reasons. And I'm sure the local audience is with me on that.
Did not have Gino love on the bingo card for today's show.
Things must be down bad.
There is college hoops on the zone tonight. Tennessee, Baylor. Tennessee's probably only chance to get a legitimately quality non-conference win at this point in the season down in the Bahamas. How many head coaching jobs in the NFL will be open this offseason? Over, under, 5.5, 66% are taking the over.
Over. So, who are we thinking? We thinking Bears?
We named 5 coaches at Damn Hot or Shut the Cluck Up the other day, and Ian Rappaport saying Stefanski is not going to get fired, and he was one of those 5 coaches.
So, Bears, Jags, you're looking at the Raiders,
Cowboys,
and the Cowboys.
Yeah.
So, I would probably go under 5.5. I bet there's still 5.
And you wonder about the Giants, right? And you wonder about the volatility of Tepper in Carolina, but I would go over. How would you describe your preseason expectations of Will Levis? Brian says, knew he wasn't the guy, and he solidified it. Ray says, skeptical. 7-11 Evan says, cautiously optimistic, which I think was most folks, right? I think that's the majority of where people were.
I feel like I was cautiously optimistic.
I think there was belief, but not trust.
Sure. And the trust is still something that we are working
absolutely
to regain.
Who should be on higher upset alert this weekend? Notre Dame against Army or Ole Miss as they go down to the Swamp to play Florida? 55% say Ole Miss will be on upset alert. Detweiler does reply, says maybe the team whose coach isn't even focusing on their game this weekend, referencing A&M coach Mike Elko, who said, no, we're focusing on Auburn this week. They are going to the Plains, and that is an interesting upset alert. Maybe we should have.
Mike Elko. Did he at least laugh about it afterwards or no?
I don't know. I'd be lying if I said I'd watched the entire press conference. Is Jerry Maguire a football movie? 53% are going yes, but it's close.
It shouldn't be that close. It's a movie about an agent and a football player. It's a football movie.
The movie is about Jerry Maguire and Renee Zellweger, whose character's name I don't remember from the movie.
I don't remember the character's name.
What's the more famous quote from that movie? You had me at hello or show me the money?
Ooh.
That's you know you got a hit when you've got 2 of the all-time greatest movie quotes.
Such a better question.
Damn it, why are we always better at this at the end of the show?
Oh, well, that's because we're not very good at the start of the show.
Had me at hello or show me the... I would go you had me at hello.
I think it's had me at hello.
Yeah.
Although people do love yelling. I mean, it's like Tua running around practice after he got his contract.
Iconic.
Show me the money.
Iconic. But I think that proves the point. It's a rom-com that has football involved.
It's a football movie.
It's a great movie.
If football is involved, it's a football movie.
Either way. Those are the polls.
All right. Very good. That's the show. Thanks for hanging out. We hope you have a great weekend. Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff. I'll be live on Sunday morning from Houston. So you can tune in starting at 9 a.m. between the Titans and the Texans. You got a little more Lucas and a lot more Blaine Bishop next.